How's it going, folks? Welcome. What is sure to be another very fun at-home table read. Tonight, we are jumping into easily just one of the best movies of all time, safe to say, The Princess Bride. We've done the Muppet version here on my page, but I realized I've never done the original. So, hey, here we are. I'm really excited to see how this one's going to go. So let's jump right into introducing ourselves.
Hi, I'm Cate, and I will be action description.
I'm Erik. I'll be Westley.
Hi, I'm Anne. I will be Buttercup.
Hello, I'm George, and I'll be Humperdink.
Hello, I'm John. I will be Vizzini.
I'm Logan. I'm Inigo Montoya.
I'm Angi, and I'm Fezzik.
I'm Chelsea, and I'm Count Rugen.
I'm Travis, and I'm not a mute, but I'm playing Miracle Max.
Oh, that's a reference that'll only make sense if you've been watching the thing that hasn't been recorded, Travis. Anyway, but Gates, take us away.
The Princess Bride, screenplay by William Goldman from his novel. Fade in on exterior a city street day. Camera tracks down a snow-covered New York City street. We hold on a typical brownstone as we push in on an upstairs bedroom window. We hear the sounds of a video game in progress. Video game on computer screen, as a sick coughing sound is heard. Pull back to reveal this kid lying in bed coughing, pale, one sick cookie. Maybe he's 7 or 8 or 9. He holds the remote in one hand, presses it, and the video game moves a little bit. Then he's hit by another spasm of coughing and puts the remote down. His room is monochromatic, grays and blues, mildly high-tech. We're in the present day, and this is a middle-class house, somewhere in the city. Cut to the kid's mother as she enters, goes to him, fluffs his pillows, briefly feels his forehead. She's worried. It doesn't show. During this,
Guess what? Your grandfather's here. Did you fall asleep?
Oh, I'm the kid. Yes, can't you tell him I'm sick?
no.
You are sick. That's why he's here.
He'll pinch my cheek. I hate that.
Or maybe he won't.
The kid shoots her an I'm sure look as we cut to the kid's grandfather bursting into the room. Kind of rumpled, but the eyes are bright. He has a book tucked under one arm and he immediately goes to the kid, pinches his cheek. How's the sickie? The kid gives his mother an I told you so look, and the mother ignores it. Beats a retreat.
I'll just leave you pals alone.
There's an uncomfortable silence, and then I bought a special present.
What is it? Is it Columba book?
That's right. When I was your age, television was called books, and this is a very special book. It was the one my father used to read to me when I was sick, and I used to read to your father.
Has it got any sports in it?
Cut to the grandfather suddenly passionate. Are you kidding? Fencing, fighting, torture, revenge, giants, monsters, chases, escapes, true love, miracles. Cut to the two of them as the grandfather sits in a chair by the bed.
Doesn't sound too bad. I'll try and stay awake.
The Princess Bride, Chapter 1. Buttercup was raised in a small farm in a country of Florin. Dissolve 2, as grandfather reads, we're seeing the story he's reading about, and the monochromatic look of the bedroom is replaced by the dazzling color of the English countryside. Her favorite pastimes were riding her horse and tormenting the farm boy who worked there. His name was Westley, but she never called him that. Isn't it a wonderful beginning?
Yeah, great.
Nothing gave Buttercup as much pleasure as ordering Wesley around. Farm boy, you lazy thing, polish my horse's saddle. Cut to exterior Buttercup's farm day. Buttercup standing, holding the reins of her horse, while in the background, Wesley in the stable doorway looks at her. Buttercup is in her late teens, doesn't care much about clothes, and she hates brushing her long hair. So she isn't as attractive as she might be, but she's still probably the most beautiful woman in the world.
I want to see my face shining in it by morning.
As you wish.
Westley is perhaps half a dozen years older than Buttercup, and maybe as handsome as she is beautiful. He gazes at her as she walks away. "As you wish" was all he ever said to her. Dissolved to Buttercup in her horse's stall. Her tone is softer than it was when she gave the previous order.
Tomboy, I want you to varnish my horse's hooves. Please.
As you wish.
She leaves the stable. His eyes stay on her. She stops, turns, and he manages to look away now as her eyes stay on him. Dissolved to Buttercup and Westley in the kitchen, dusk. Her voice, when she speaks, is softer still.
Tomboy, fetch me that bowl. The heavy one, way up high.
As you wish.
Cut to Westley walking away from the farmhouse as Buttercup stares after him. That day, she was amazed to discover that when he was saying, "As you wish," what he meant was this: "I love you." And even more amazing was that night when she realized she truly loved him back. Dissolved to Westley and Buttercup outside his tiny novel in the moonlight. They are locked in a passionate kiss.
Hold it.
Cut to the kids' room.
Is this a trick you're playing on me? Like, where's the sports? Is this a kissing book?
Wait.
Well, when does it get good?
Keep your shirt on. Let me read. Wesley had no money for marriage, so he packed his few belongings and left to the farm to seek his fortune across the seas. Cut to Wesley and Buttercup. They're standing a few feet apart at the gate of the farm. It was a very emotional time for Buttercup. She runs to Wesley, starts to embrace him.
Don't believe this.
Fear I'll never see you again.
Of course you will.
What if something happens to you?
Hear this now. I will always come for you.
How can you be sure?
This is true love. You think it happens every day?
Then, as Wesley walks away, Buttercup watches him go. Wesley didn't reach his destination. Cut to the room. His ship was attacked by the dread pirate Roberts, who never left captives alive. When Buttercup got the news that Wesley was murdered,
Murdered by pirates is good.
she went into her room and shut the door. For days, she neither slept nor ate.
I will never love again.
Cold on her face, perfect and perfectly sad. Dissolved to the main courtyard of Florin, replete with townspeople, livestock, and a bustling marketplace. 5 years later, the main square of Florin City was filled as never before to hear the announcement of the great Prince Humperdink's bride-to-be. Cut to Prince Humperdink, a man of incredible power and bearing, is standing in his royal robes on a castle balcony. 3 others stand behind him, an old couple with crowns, the aging king and queen, and a dark bearded man who seems the prince's match in strength. This is Count Rugen.
My people, a month from now, our country will have its 500th anniversary. On that sundown, I shall marry a lady who was once a commoner like yourselves. But perhaps you will not find her common now. Would you like to meet her?
And the answering yes booms like summer thunder. The crowd, and my God, you never saw so many people. Cut to a giant staircase leading to the crowd, and as a figure just begins to become visible, cut to the crowd as they see the figure. We haven't yet. And if there is such a thing as collective action, then this crowd collectively holds its breath. Cut to the staircase as the figure appears. It is Buttercup, and she is resplendent.
My people, the Princess Buttercup.
She descends the stairs and starts to move amongst the people. The balcony, the king says something, but all that comes out is one long mumble.
Rugen, did you understand any of that?
Not a syllable.
Doesn't seem possible, but the king's mumblings are getting worse every day.
Your father said it isn't safe for her to move among the people. It's all right. She's so gentle. Who would want to harm her?
I tell you this, no man had better try.
Cut to the crowd, and they do a very strange thing. With no instruction at all, they suddenly go to their knees. Great waves of people kneeling, and cut to Buttercup, terribly moved. She stands immobile among her subjects, blinking back tears. Hold on her beauty for a moment, and then cut to a stable in the castle grounds. It's the same day, mid-afternoon, and Humperdink is dressed as before. Buttercup is now in riding clothes, and she leads her horse towards the prince. Then together they start for the stable door.
Must you ride? You seem upset. I can't hear you, Buttercup.
The king looks so old today. I suppose that upset me.
He has a right to look old, my darling. He was at last count 97, and every organ in his body has long since betrayed him. And my father's health is not what's upsetting you. Have I been inattentive? Is that it? I know you don't love me, but I promise you'll grow to love me.
It's not you. It was the crowd. They should not have bowed to me. When you proposed, I was just like them, ordinary. And even though I've gone to royalty school in my heart, I'm still ordinary. I felt a fraud today and should not have bowed down.
Beloved, you are the most beautiful woman in the world. When we marry, you'll be the richest and most powerful as well. Don't expect too much from life.
You're very wise. I must learn to be satisfied with what I have.
She reacts to her lot in life as she rides off. Cut to Woodlands and Buttercup barreling along, controlling the beast easily. She's more relaxed. It's later in the day. Cut to a wooded glen close to sundown. Lovely, quiet, deserted. Buttercup suddenly reins in as we cut to 3 men standing close together in the path. Beyond them can be seen the waters of Florin Channel. The 3 men are not your everyday commuter types. Standing in front is a tiny man with the most angelic face. He is Sicilian and his name is Vizzini. Behind him is a Spaniard, erect and taut as a blade of steel. His name is Inigo Montoya. Beside him is a mustache giant. His name is Fezzik.
A word, my lady. We are but poor lost circus performers. Is there a village nearby?
There is nothing nearby, not for miles.
Then there will be no one to hear you scream.
He nods to the giant Fezzik, who merely reaches over, touches a nerve on Buttercup's neck, and the start of a scream is all she manages. Unconsciousness comes fast, and she starts to fall. Cut to a tiny isolated spot at the edge of the Florin Channel. A sailboat is moored, and dust now shadows along. Inigo, the Spaniard, busies himself getting the boat ready. The giant Fezzik carries Buttercup unconscious on board. Vizzini rips some tiny pieces of fabric from an army jacket and tucks them along the saddle of Buttercup's horse. There is, about an entire operation, a sense of tremendous skill and precision.
What is that you're ripping?
Fabric from the uniform of an army officer of Gilder,
Who's Gilda?
the country across the sea and the sworn enemy of Florin. Go!
The horse takes off. They start for the boat.
Once the horse reaches the castle, the fabric will make the prince suspect that Gildurians have abducted his love. When he finds her body dead on the Gilder frontier, his suspicions will be totally confirmed.
You never said anything about killing anyone.
Vizzini hops on the boat.
I have hired you to help me start a war. It is a prestigious line of work with a long and glorious tradition.
I just don't think it's right, killing an innocent girl.
Am I going mad, or did the word think escape your lips? You were not hired for your brains, you hippopotamic landmass.
I agree with Fezzik.
Cut to close-up Vizzini in a fury.
Sot has spoken. What happens to her is not truly your concern. I will kill her, and remember this. Never forget this.
Cut to Inigo and Fezzik as Vizzini advances on them. Nothing shows on Inigo's face, but Fezzik is panicked by Vizzini.
When I found you, you were so slobbering drunk you couldn't buy brandy. And you, friendless, brainless, helpless, hopeless, you want me to send you back to where you were, unemployed, in Greenland?
I think it's wonderful, Vizzini, what we're doing. War and death, they're just the nicest things.
Vizzini glares at him, then turns and leaves them. He always carries a knapsack, and now he opens it, takes out a piece of cheese. During this, Inigo has gone close to Fezzik, who is very distressed at the insults he just received. And as Inigo casts off,
That Vizzini, he can fuss.
Fuss. Fuss. I think he likes to scream at us.
You have a great gift for rhyme.
Yes, some of the time.
as they sail off, dissolve to the sailboat racing across the dark waters. Inigo is at the helm. Fezzik stands near the body of the princess, whose eyelids flutter slightly, or do they? Vizzini nibbles away at his cheese. The waves are higher. There are only occasional flashes of moon slanting down between the clouds.
We shall reach the cliffs by dawn. Why are you doing that?
Making sure we're not followed.
Believe me, that would be inconceivable. Back to sleep with you, baggage.
Buttercup's body drains of energy. Her eyelids do not flutter now. Dissolve to the ship. The waves are higher. There are more clouds. Hours have passed and there is no movement, except for Inigo, who is staring back behind them.
Stop doing that. We can all relax. It's almost over.
You sure no one could be after us?
As I told you hours ago, it would be absolutely, totally, and in all other ways inconceivable. No one in Gilder knows what we've done, and no one in Florin could have gotten here so fast. Out of curiosity, why do you ask?
No reason. It's only that I just happened to look behind us and something's there.
And suddenly the three whirl, stare back as they do. Cut to the darkness behind them. It's hard to see. The moon is behind clouds now, but the wind whistles and the waves pound, and suddenly it's all gone ominous. Cut to Inigo, Fezzik, and Vizzini squinting back, trying desperately to see. At this moment, they are all holding their breaths. Cut to the darkness behind them. And there's still nothing to be seen. It's still ominous. Only now it's eerie too. And then the moon slips through, and Inigo was right. Something is very much there. A sailboat, black with great billowing sail. Black. It's good distance behind them, but it's coming like hell, closing the gap. Cut to Inigo, Fezzik, and Vizzini staring at the other boat.
Probably some local fishermen out for a pleasure cruise at night through eel-infested waters.
And now, as a sound comes from their boat, they turn as we cut to Buttercup diving into the water, starting to swim away. Cut to the boat and Vizzini screaming.
Go in! Go get after her!
I don't swim.
I only dog paddle.
I can hear her kicking. Veer left!
The moon, gone now, darkness again. Cut to Buttercup, still close to the boat, switching from a crawl to a silent breaststroke. The wind dies, and as it does, something new is heard. A not too distant, high-pitched shrieking sound. Buttercup stops suddenly and treads water. Cut to the boat.
Do you know what that sound is, Highness? Those are the shrieking eels. If you doubt me, just wait. They always grow louder when they're about to feed on human flesh.
Cut to Buttercup, treading water, still not far from the boat. The shrieking sounds are getting louder and more terrifying. Buttercup stays silent. Cut to the boat.
If you swim back now, I promise no harm will come to you. I doubt you will get such an offer from the eels.
Cut to Buttercup, and she's a gutsy girl. The shrieking sound is louder still, but she doesn't make a sound. Behind her now, something dark and gigantic slithers past. Cut to Vizzini shouting it out.
I won't warn you again. Call out your position or die.
Cut to Buttercup in the water, and she's scared, sure, petrified. Who wouldn't be? But she makes no reply. And now a shrieking eel has zeroed in on her, and now she sees it, a short distance away, circling, starting to close, and Buttercup is frozen, trying not to make a movement of any kind, and the eel slithers closer, closer, and Buttercup knows it now. There's nothing she can do. It's over. It's all over, and now the eel opens its mouth wide. It's never made such a noise, and as its great jaws are about to clamp down, she does not get eaten by the eel this time. And the second we hear him, cut to the sick kid's room, the kid looks the same, pale and weak, but maybe he's gripping the sheets a little too tightly with his hands.
What?
I said the eels don't get her. You looked nervous.
I wasn't nervous. I
His
said,
grandfather says nothing and just waits.
Well, maybe I was edgy, but that's not what the same thing.
Perhaps I should stop for now.
You can read a little more if you want to. I don't mind.
Cut to Vizzini. We're back in the boat.
You know what that sound is, Highness? Those are the shrieking eels.
Past that, Grandpa. You did that already.
My mistake, forgive me. Cut to a whole series of blurred images whizzing past until suddenly one of them freezes. What's happened, of course, is that the grandfather has flipped forward some pages in the book he's reading, and we're back where we were the last moment we saw her. Buttercup frozen, the shrieking eel, jaws wide, about to clamp down as we cut to two giant arms reaching down, easily lifting Buttercup free, and the other grabbing the eel. Pull back to reveal the boat and Fezzik, Buttercup safe in the giant's arms as he deposits her on deck. He then proceeds to rip the giant eel lengthwise in two.
Yuck.
He throws both halves back in the water.
I suppose you think you're brave, don't you?
Only compared to some.
Cut to Inigo pointing behind them.
Look, he's cut our lead in half.
Cut to the man in black, and his boat almost seems to be flying. Cut to Vizzini crying out in a triumph.
It doesn't matter. He's too late. See? The cliffs of insanity.
And once he said the name, cut to the cliffs of insanity at dawn. They rise straight up, sheer from the water, impossibly high. Cut to the two sailboats in a wild race for the cliffs, and the man in black is closing faster than ever, but not fast enough. The lead was too great to overcome, and as Inigo sails with great precision straight to the cliffs, we cut to...
We're safe. Only Fezzik is strong enough to go up our way. He'll have to sail around for hours till he finds a harbor.
Cut to Buttercup, staring as the cliffs come closer, assume an even more frightening height. There's much activity going on, all of it swift, expert, economical. Fezzik reaches up along the cliff face, grabs a jutting rock, reaches behind it. Suddenly there's a thick rope in his hands. He drops back to the boat, gives the rope a freeing swing, and cut to the cliffs. The rope goes all the way to the top. Cut to Inigo, hurries to Fezzik and straps a harness to him, then lifts Buttercup and Vizzini into the harness. Finally, he himself gets in the harness, and all three now are strapped to Fezzik like papooses.
Whenever you're ready.
Everyone steady?
If you please.
I'll climb with ease.
Oh, that's a good one, Fezzik.
And he starts to ascend the rope, carrying them all along with him as he goes.
I hate those stupid rhymes of yours.
We keep Fezzik cheery. They help him with his work.
Cut to the man in black sailing in towards the cliffs of insanity, watching as Fezzik rises swiftly through the first moments of dawn. Cut to the top of the cliff looking down. Fezzik's group is only faintly visible far below. This is the first time we've gotten the real vertigo feeling, and it's a gasper. Cut to Fezzik climbing on. Buttercup is almost out of her mind with fear. Cut to the entire length of the cliff. Fezzik is moving right along, however high they are. He's already over a third of the way done. Cut to the man in black leaping from his ship to the rope, starting to climb. He's impossibly far behind, but the way he goes, you'd think he didn't know that, because he's flying up the rope, hand over hand like lightning. Cut to Vizzini and the others.
He's gaining on us.
Inconceivable.
He prods Fezzik, who nods, increases his pace. Cut to the man in black roaring up the rope, and cut to long shot the cliffs. Then the man in black is cutting deeply into Fezzik's lead. Cut to Vizzini and the others.
Faster.
I'm sorry, I thought I was going faster.
Cut to the man in black. His arms still work as before. If anything, he is sped up. Fezzik's lead is smaller and smaller. And cut to the view from the top of the cliffs. Maybe 100 feet for Fezzik to go, maybe more. Cut to Vizzini and the others, and it's getting too close now.
I thought you were supposed to be a colossus. I thought you were this great legendary thing, and yet he gains.
Well, I'm carrying 3 people, and he's only got himself, and...
I do not accept excuses. Just gonna have to find a new giant, that's all.
Oh, don't say that, Vizzini, please.
And his arms begin moving much more slowly. Cut to the man in black, less than 100 feet behind them and gaining. We can see now that he is masked. Cut to Vizzini and the others.
You shouldn't insult Fezzik.
Had to hire a temperamental strongman.
Fezzik is a good worker.
Worker. Not a shirker.
Very hardy.
Never tardy.
Here go these rhymes again.
Cut to Fezzik and Inigo's words are terribly pleasing to him, and the hurt the Vizzini put into his eyes is gone. Now the great arms move faster than they've ever gone, and the top of the cliffs of insanity is very close. And the arms keep going, and the top is closer, and the arms move even more quickly until suddenly, at long last, cut to the cliff's top as Fezzik makes it. Vizzini leaps off and takes out a knife, begins to cut the rope which is tied around the great tree while Inigo helps the princess to her feet, and Fezzik just stands around waiting for someone to tell him to do something. Nearby are stone ruins. Once they might have been a fort, now they kind of resemble Stonehenge. Cut to the man in black, 75 feet from the top now, maybe less, maybe only 50, and his face is dazzling as before. And cut to Vizzini, cutting through the last of the rope, and cut to the rope, slithering across the ground and out of sight, towards the channel like some great serpent at last going home. Cut to Fezzik standing with Inigo and Buttercup by the cliff edge.
He has very good arms.
Cut to the man in black, hanging suspended hundreds of feet in the air, holding the jagged rocks, desperately trying to cling to life. Cut to Vizzini, stunned, running to the others, looking down.
He didn't fall? Inconceivable.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. My God, he's climbing.
Cut to the man in black, and so he is, very slowly. He's picking his way upward, sometimes a foot at a time, sometimes an inch. Cut to the group at the top staring down.
Whoever he has obviously seen us with the princess and must therefore die. I need you to carry her. We'll head straight for the Gilder frontier. Catch up when he's dead. If he falls, fine. If not, the sword.
I'm going to duel him left-handed.
You know what hurry we're in.
It's the only way I get any satisfaction. If I use my right, it's over too quickly.
Oh, have it your way.
Fezzik tosses Buttercup over his shoulder and goes to Inigo.
You'll be careful. People in masks can't be trusted.
Come along, come along.
Fezzik nods and hurries after Vizzini. Cut to Inigo. He watches them depart and then turns, peers down over the cliffs. Cut to the man in black, perhaps 50 feet below, still making his perilously slow way towards the top of the cliffs. From the pace he's able to set, it could take hours. Cut to Inigo, who watches a moment more, then paces, fingers snapping. He's a taut and nervous fellow and has never been one for waiting around. Cut to the man in black climbing on. He must be 6 inches closer to the top than when we last saw him. Inigo is watching. Cut to Inigo walking down, sheathing his sword. His fingers are snapping faster than before in a wild Spanish rhythm. Finally, he goes back to the cliff edge, starts to talk. It's instant death if the man in black falls, but neither gives that possibility much credence. This is our two heroes meeting. They don't know it yet, but that's what it is.
Hello there.
The man in black glances up and kind of grunts.
Slow going?
I don't mean to be rude, but this isn't as easy as it looks. So I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't distract me.
Sorry.
The man in black kind of grunts again.
I don't suppose you could speed things up?
If you're so anxious to hurry things, you could lower a rope or a tree branch or find something useful to do.
I could do that. I got some rope up here. But I don't think you'd accept my help since I'm only waiting around to kill you.
That does put a damper in our relationship.
But I promise I won't kill you until you reach the top.
Well, that's comforting. But I'm afraid you'll just have to wait.
I hate waiting. I could give you my word as a Spaniard.
No good. I know too many Spaniards.
And he just hangs in space, resting, gathering his strength.
Isn't there any way you trust me?
Nothing comes to mind.
And on those words, the camera zooms into a close-up of Inigo. He raises his right hand high, his eyes blaze, his voice takes on a tone we have not heard before.
I swear on the soul of my father, Domingo Montoya, you will reach the top alive.
Cut to the man in black. There is a pause, and then quietly.
Throw me the rope.
Cut to Inigo. He dashes to the giant rock the rope was originally tied to, grabs a small coil of rope, hurries back to the edge, and as he hurls it over, we cut to the rope. It hangs close on the man in black. He releases the rocks, grabs the rope, hangs helplessly in space a moment, and then looks at Inigo end. We cut to Inigo who's straining, forcing his body away from the cliff edge, and the man in black is rising through the early morning light, slowly, steadily, and as the cliff top at least comes within reach, Inigo is watching as the man in black crawls to safety and then sprawls, exhausted on the rough, rocky ground. Inigo comes over and sits on a stone by the man in black.
Thank you.
We'll wait until you're ready.
Again, thank you.
The man in black wears gloves and Inigo stares at them.
I don't mean to pry, but you don't by any chance happen to have 6 fingers on your right hand?
He glances up. The question clearly baffles him.
Do you always begin conversations this way?
My father was slaughtered by a 6-fingered man. He was a great sword maker, my father. When the 6-fingered man appeared and requested a special sword, my father took the job. He slaved a year before he was done.
He hands his sword to the man in black.
I've never seen its equal.
Cut to a close-up of Inigo. Even now, this still brings pain.
6-fingered man returned and demanded it, but at 1/10 his promised price. My father refused. Without a word, the 6-fingered man slashed him through the heart. I loved my father, so naturally I challenged his murderer to a duel. But I failed. 6-fingered man left me alive, but he gave me this.
Cut to the man in black looking up at Inigo.
How old were you?
Almost 11, and when I was strong enough, I dedicated my life to the study of fencing. For the next time we meet, I will not fail. I'll just go up to this 6-fingered man and say, "Hello, my name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die."
You've done nothing but study swordplay.
More pursuit than study lately. You see, I can't find him. It's been 20 years now, and I'm starting to lose confidence. I just work for Vizzini to pay the bills. Not a lot of money and revenge.
Well, I hope you find him someday.
You ready then?
Whether I am or not, you've been more than fair.
You seem like a decent fellow. I hate to kill you.
You seem a decent fellow. I hate to die.
Begin.
And on that word, we cut to the two of them. And what we're starting now is one of the two greatest sword fights in modern movies. The other one happens later on. And right from the beginning, it looks different because they aren't close to each other. None of the swords crossing on guard garbage. No, what we have here is two men, two athletes, and they look to be too far away to damage each other, but each time one makes even the tiniest feint, the other counters, and there is silence, and they start to circle. The man in black's eyes are hidden behind the mask, but they're bright, and we cut to the 6-fingered sword, feinting here, feinting there, and the man in black almost off balance as he's got it back, and as he does, we cut to Inigo's feet, and suddenly they seem to fly as he leaps forward at an incredible distance, and while he's in the air, the man in black jumps brilliantly to one side, and as Inigo flies at him from their swords cross. Then again, and the sound comes so fast it's almost continual.
Using Vanetti's defense against me.
I thought it fitting, considering the rocky terrain.
Naturally, you must expect me to attack with Capofero.
He shifts his style now.
Naturally. But I find Theobald cancels out Capofero, don't you?
The man in black retreats before Inigo, but handles Inigo's onslaught without overpowering difficulty, and then suddenly his entire style changes and he is doing the advancing.
Unless the enemy has studied his Agrippa, which I have.
And as he changes styles, the two men flying almost across the rocky terrain, never losing balance, never coming close to stumbling, and the battle rages with incredible fitness, first one and then the other gaining the advantage. And by now, it's clear that this isn't just two athletes going at it. It's a lot more than that. This is two legendary swashbucklers, and they're in their prime. It's Burt Lancaster and the Crimson Pirate battling Errol Flynn and Robin Hood. And then, incredibly, the action begins, going even faster than before as we cut to Inigo. And behind him now, drawing closer all the time, is the deadly edge of the cliffs of insanity. Inigo fights and ducks and feints and slashes. It all works, but not for long, as gradually the man in black keeps the advantage, keeps forcing Inigo back closer and closer to death.
You are wonderful.
Thank you. I've worked so hard to become so.
The cliff's edge is very close now, and he's continually being forced towards it.
I admit, you're better than I am.
Then why are you smiling?
Inches from death, Inigo is, in fact, all smiles.
Because I know something you don't know.
And what is that?
I am not left-handed.
And he throws the six-fingered sword into his right hand, and immediately the tide of battle turns. Cut to the man in black, stunned, doing everything he can to keep Inigo by the cliff edge, but it's no use. Slowly at first, he begins to retreat, now faster. Inigo is in control, and the man in black is desperate. Cut to Inigo, and the six-fingered sword is all but invisible now, as he increases its attack, then suddenly switching styles again. Leaps in, and first blood is this. The man in black is bleeding from the wrist. Oh no, guys, sorry, my script spaz out. What page are we on?
32.
Suddenly at 32. Thank you. The giant tree the climbing rope was tied to, the man in black is forced towards it. Cut to Inigo whirling around the tree, striking again, this time the other wrist of the man in black drawing another trickle of blood. Cut to the man in black, almost running from the tree, getting out in the clear as Inigo relentlessly increases the pressure. Cut to the cliff edge again, and the man in black can't stop Inigo. Nothing can stop him, and in a frenzy, the man in black makes every feint, tries every thrust. Let's go with all he has left, but he fails. Everything fails. He's almost to the cliff's edge when he glances back, sees near fatal position, tries one or two final desperate moves, but they're nothing.
You are amazing.
I ought to be after 15 years.
Yes. And there's one thing, final thing, I must tell you.
Tell me.
I'm not left-handed either. Dun, dun, dun.
And now he changes hands, and at last the battle is fully joined. Cut to Inigo, and to his amazement, he is being forced back. He tries one style, another, but it all comes down to the same thing. The man in black seems to be in control.
Who are you?
No one of consequence.
I must know.
Get used to disappointment.
Cut to the man in black, moving like lightning, and he thrusts forward, slashes, darts back, all in almost every single movement, and cut to Inigo, stunned, looking at his arm. It's bleeding. The man in black is again thrust forward, faster than before, and again he slashes, but Inigo, there's never a move anyone makes he doesn't remember, and this time he blocks the slash, slashes out himself with the six-fingered sword, and although the man in black manages to retreat out of the range of blow, the tide of battle has changed again, with Inigo back in command as they speed across the rock-filled terrain, dodging and lunging and feinting and tricking, their swords in constant contact. Cut to Inigo's feet, moving with the grace and speed of great improvisational dancer. Cut to his sword hand as it flicks the great weapon, and the power in his wrist is tremendous. Cut to the mighty six-fingered sword as the light does its best to keep up with it, and now, at long last, we cut to his face, and something terrible is written behind his eyes, as he has given his all, done everything man can do, tried every style, made every maneuver, but it wasn't enough. And on his face, for all to see, is the realization that he, Inigo Montoya of Spain, is to lose. Cut to the man in black, moving in for the end now, blocking everything, muzzling everything, and cut to the six-fingered sword, sent flying from Inigo's grip as he stands helpless only a moment. Then he drops to his knees, bows his head and shuts his eyes.
Kill me quickly.
I would as soon destroy a stained glass window as an artist like yourself. However, since I can't have you following me.
And he clunks Inigo's head with his heavy sword handle. Inigo hitches forward, unconscious.
Please understand that I hold you in the highest respect.
Cut to close-up of Vizzini.
Inconceivable!
Pull back to reveal Vizzini staring down from a narrow mountain path. As far below, the man in black can be seen running. Fezzik, carrying the princess, stands alongside. It's a little later in the morning.
Give her to me. Catch up with us quickly.
What do I do?
Finish him your way.
Oh, good, my way. Thank you, Vizzini. My way, indeed, of course. Which way is my way?
Cut to a couple of boulders, nothing gigantic, maybe a yard in diameter. Vizzini points to them. There's a large tree nearby.
Pick up one of those boulders, move behind the tree.
Cut to Vizzini with Fezzik pointing down the long mountain path.
In a few minutes, the man in black will come running around that bend. The minute his head is in view, hit him with the boulder.
As Vizzini and Buttercup hurry away,
My way is not exactly sportsmanlike.
he stands motionless in the tree shadow, the boulder cradled easily in his hands as we cut to the man in black, racing up the mountain trail. Ahead is a bend in the trail. He sees it, slows, and he stops, listening. Cut to Fezzik waiting around the bend, deep in shadow as he does not move. There's absolutely no sound. Cut to the man in black, satisfied by the silence, he starts forward again, and as he rounds the bend, we cut to Fezzik, and the instant the man in black's head comes into view, he steps out, fires the boulder like rocket, and cut to the man in black, unaware of the boulder until too late, he's caught, frozen, and cut to the boulder zooming dead into camera, and the man in black, as the boulder misses him by an inch, crashes harmlessly down. Now cut to Fezzik, he moves into the mountain path, has picked up the other boulder, and holds it lightly.
I did that on purpose. I didn't have to miss.
I believe you. But what happens now?
We faced each other as God intended, in a sportsmanlike manner. No tricks, no weapons, skill against skill alone.
You mean you'll put down your rock and I'll put down my sword and we'll try to kill each other like civilized people?
I can kill you now.
He gets set to throw, but the man in black shakes his head, takes off his sword, and scabbard begins to approach towards the giant.
Frankly, I think the odds are slightly in your favor at hand fighting.
It's not my fault being the biggest and strongest. I don't even exercise.
He flips the rock away, cut to the mountain path and the two men. The man in black is not now and has never been a shrimp, but it's like he wasn't even there. Fezzik towers over him so much. There's a moment pause, and then the man in black dives at Fezzik's chest, slams him several tremendous blows in the stomach, twists his arm severely, slips skillfully into the beautifully applied bear hug, and in general makes any number of terrific wrestling moves. Fezzik just stands there, kind of taking in the scenery. Finally, the man in black pushes himself away and stares up at the giant.
Look, are you just fiddling around with me or what?
I wanted you to feel like you were doing well. I always hated for people to die embarrassed.
They get set to begin again, and suddenly we cut to Fezzik as he jumps forward with stunning speed for anyone his size and reaches for the man in black, grabs him, and as the man in black slips away, Fezzik reaches again, grabs him again, and as the man in black drops to his knees, spins loose, Fezzik goes right down with him, takes him in both arms until the man in black twists free, jumps to his feet, panting from the effort.
You're quick.
Had a good thing too.
Why do you wear a mask? Were you disfigured at birth by burns or acid or something like that?
Oh no, it's just that they're terribly comfortable. I think everyone will be wearing them in the future.
Oh no. Cut to Fezzik considers this a moment, then attacks. And if he moved quickly last time, this time he's blinding, and as the man in black slips down to avoid the charge, Fezzik moves right with him, only instead of twisting free and jumping to his feet, the man in black jumps for Fezzik's back, and in a moment he is riding him, and his arms have Fezzik's throat locked across Fezzik's windpipe, and one in front, one behind. The man in black begins to squeeze tighter.
I just figured out why you're giving me so much trouble.
Fezzik, as he charges towards the huge rock that lines the path, and just as he reaches it, he spins his giant body so that the entire weight of the charge is taken by the man in black. Cut to the man in black, and the power of the charge is terrible, the pain enormous, but he clings to his grip at Fezzik's windpipe.
Why is it, do you think?
Well, I haven't fought just one person so long now. I've kind of been specializing in groups, battling gangs for local charities, that kind of thing.
Cut to another huge rock on the other side of the path. Again, Fezzik charges, slower this time, but still a charge. And again, he spins and crams the man against the rough boulder. Cut to the man in black, and the punishment is terrible. And for a moment, it seems as if he's going to let go of Fezzik's windpipe and crumble, but he doesn't. He holds on.
Why should that make a difference?
Well, you see, use different moves when you're fighting half a dozen people and you've only got one to worry about.
Again, Fezzik slams the man in black against a boulder, only this time his power is diminished and Fezzik starts to slowly collapse. Cut to Fezzik, and now there isn't much breath coming. Cut to the man in black holding his grip as Fezzik tries to stand, halfway makes it, but there's no air. Back to his knees he falls, holds there a moment, and pitches down on all fours. The man in black increases the pressure. Fezzik tries to crawl, but there's just no air. No air. Fezzik goes to earth and lies still. Cut to Fezzik as the man in black turns him over, puts hands on Fezzik's heart. It beats. The man in black stands.
I don't envy you the headache you'll have when you're awake, but in the meantime, rest well. Dream of large women.
And as he dashes off up along the mountain path, we cut to, close on, a knife pointed at a throat. Pull back to reveal Vizzini munching on an apple, holding the knife to Buttercup's throat. She's blindfolded. A picnic spread is laid out, a tablecloth, 2 goblets, and between them a small leather wine container, and some cheese, of course cheese, and a couple of apples. The picnic is set on a lovely spot high atop the edge of the mountain path with a view all the way back to the sea. The man in black comes running around the path and sees Vizzini. Slows, the 2 men study each other, and then...
So, now it is down to you, and it is down to me.
The man in black nods and comes nearer.
If you wish her dead, by all means, keep moving forward.
And he pushes his long knife harder against Buttercup's unprotected throat.
Let me explain.
There's nothing to explain. You're trying to kidnap what I have rightfully stolen.
Perhaps an arrangement can be reached?
There will be no arrangement.
As the man in black moves forward again...
And you're killing her.
Cut to Buttercup's throat as Vizzini jabs it with his long knife. A drop of red blood appears against her skin. Cut to the man in black stopping fast.
If there could be no arrangement, then we are at an impasse.
I fear so. I cannot compete with you physically, and you are no match for my brains.
You're that smart.
Let me put it this way. Have you heard of Plato, Aristotle, Socrates?
Yes?
Morons.
Really? In that case, I charge you to a battle of wits.
For the princess?
The man in black nods.
To the death?
Another nod.
I accept.
Then pour the wine.
As Vizzini fills the goblets with dark red liquid, the man in black pulls a small packet from his clothing, drops it by the wine.
Open that, but do not touch.
I smell nothing.
What you do not smell is called iocane powder. It is odorless, tasteless, dissolves instantly in liquid, and is among the deadlier poisons known to man. Hand me the goblets.
Take them yourself. My long knife does not leave her throat.
As he presses harder, making his meaning quite clear, we cut to Vizzini watching excitedly as the man in black takes the goblets, turns his back. A moment later, he turns again, faces Vizzini, drops the iocane packet into the kerchief. It's empty now. The man in black sits, puts the one glass in front of Vizzini, the other in front of himself.
All right, where is the poison? The battle of wits has begun. It ends when you decide and we both drink and find out who is right and who is dead.
But it's so simple. All I need to do is divine from what I know of you. Are you the kind of man who would put the poison in his own glass or his enemies?
He reaches for the man in black's wine goblet and studies it.
Now, a clever man would place the poison in his own goblet because he would know that only a great fool would reach for what he was given. I am not a great fool, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you must have known that I was not a great fool. You would have counted on it, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
He puts the goblet down.
You've made your decision then?
Not remotely, because iocane comes from Australia. As everyone knows, and Australia is entirely peopled with criminals, and criminals are used to having people not trust them, as you are not trusted by me, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you.
Surely you have a dizzying intellect.
Wait till I get going. Where was I? Yes, Australia. You mustn't have suspected that I would have known the powder's origin, so I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
You're stalling now.
You'd like to think that, wouldn't you? You've beaten my Turk, which means you're exceptionally strong. So you could have just put it in your own cup, trusting on your strength to save you. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of you. But you have bested my Spaniard, which means you must have studied. And in studying means you must have learned that man is mortal. So you would have put the poison as far away from yourself as possible. So I can clearly not choose the wine in front of me.
As Vizzini's pleasure has been growing throughout, the man in black has been fast disappearing.
You're just trying to trick me into giving away something. It won't work.
It has worked. You've given everything away. I know where the poison is.
Then make your choice.
I will, and I choose.
And suddenly he stops, points at something behind the man in black.
Oh, what in the world can that be?
Cut to the man in black, turning around and looking.
Where? I don't see anything.
Cut to Vizzini busily switching the goblets while the man in black has his head turned.
Oh, well, I could have sworn I saw something. No matter.
The man in black turns to face him again. Vizzini starts to laugh.
What's so funny?
I'll tell you in a minute. First, let's drink. Me from my glass, and you from yours.
And he picks up his goblet. The man in black picks up the one in front of him. As they both start to drink, Vizzini hesitates a moment, then allowing the man in black to drink first, swallows his wine.
You've guessed wrong.
You only think I guessed wrong. That's what's so funny. I switched your glasses when your back was turned.
Cut to the man in black. There's nothing he could say. He just sits there. Cut to Vizzini watching him.
Fool, you fell victim to one of the most classic blunders. The most famous is never get involved in a land war in Asia, but only slightly less well known is this. Never go against a Sicilian when death is on the line.
He laughs and roars and cackles, and whoops, he's always quite cheery until he falls over dead. Cut to the man in black stepping past the corpse, taking the blindfold and bindings off Buttercup, who notices Vizzini lying dead. The man in black pulls her to her feet.
Who are you?
I'm no one to be trifled with. That is all you'll ever need to know.
He starts to lead her off the mountain path into untraveled terrain.
To think all that time your cup was poisoned.
Cut to close up on the man in black.
They were both poisoned. I've spent the last years building up an immunity to iocane powder.
And with that, he takes off, dragging her behind him. Cut to a wild stretch of terrain. The man in black comes running into view, still dragging Buttercup, who sometimes stumbles, but he keeps forcing her along. Finally, when she is close to exhaustion, he lets go of her.
Catch your breath.
You'll release me, whatever you ask for ransom. You'll get it, I promise you.
And what is that worth? The promise of a woman? You're very funny, Highness.
I was giving you a chance. It does not matter where you take me. There is no greater hunter than Prince Humperdink. He can track a falcon on a cloudy day. He can find you.
Oh, you think your dearest love will save you?
I never said he was my dearest love, and yes, he will save me. That I know.
So you admit to me that you do not love your fiancé?
He knows I do not love him.
You're not capable of love, is that what you mean?
I have loved more deeply than a killer like yourself could ever dream.
Suddenly, the man in black raises his hand, starts forward in a slapping motion. Buttercup tries to turn her head away, but the man in black stops his hand a fraction of an inch from her cheek.
That was a warning, Highness. The next time my hand flies on its own, for where I come from, there are penalties when woman lies.
And suddenly he grabs her hand, and they are once again racing away. Cut to Prince Humperdink, lying at the top edge of the cliffs of insanity, his body dangerously over the side, staring down. Cut to Count Rugen, mounted, watching behind him, half a dozen armed warriors also mounted. A great white horse waits riderless in front, and the prince nimbly jumps to his feet, begins examining the rocky ground. To an ordinary eye, that's all it looks like. Rocky ground, but not to Humperdink. And maybe he isn't the best hunter in the world. And then again, maybe he is, because as he begins to put his feet into strange positions, we realize that what he is doing is miming fencers.
It was a mighty duel. It ranged all over.
Now he changes hands, still in mime, shifting the imaginary sword. He shakes his head.
Makes no sense. Sometimes they held with the left hand, sometimes the right.
Prince Humperdink continuing his miming, and he's following the course of the duel. It's incredible.
They were both masters.
Who won? How did it end?
My guess would be that the loser ran off alone that way, while the winner followed those footprints towards Gilda.
Cut to the prince and the count moving rapidly towards their horses.
Shall we track them both?
The loser is nothing, only the princess matters. Clearly this was all planned by warriors of Gilda, and we must all be ready for whatever lies ahead.
Could this be a trap?
I always think everything could be a trap, which is why I'm still alive.
And he gallops off screen. We cut to a mountain path. It's where Fezzik caught the man in black. Camera pulls back to reveal the prince reining in sharply and the others behind him.
Someone has beaten a giant. Pity the country of Gilda if she dies.
Cut to Vizzini's body. The picnic is spread as before, and camera pulls back to reveal the prince, kneeling by the body as the others ride up. The prince grabs up the empty poison packet, hands it to Rugen, and after first sniffing it himself.
Iocane, I bet my life on it. And there are the princess's footprints. She is alive, or was 2 hours ago.
And as he vaults onto his horse and the way they all charge off, we cut to Buttercup being spun into camera view, falling heavily as the man in black releases her. We are still in barren area, but higher now.
Rest, Highness.
I know who you are. Your cruelty reveals everything.
The man in black says nothing.
You are the dread pirate Roberts. Admit it.
With pride. What can I do for you?
You can die slowly, cut into 1,000 pieces.
Hardly complimentary, Highness. Why lose your venom on me?
Cut to a close-up of Buttercup quietly now.
You killed my love.
Cut to the man in black watching her closely.
It's possible. Killed lots of people.
And now he pulls her to her feet, and as again they start to run. Cut to Humperdink, riding it like a bat out of hell, approaching the same stretch of wild terrain where Buttercup promised ransom in exchange for her freedom. Behind him come the others, and a cloud of dust is rising visibly from all the fallen horses. The dust cloud rises high, and Rugen rides up.
She was alive 50 minutes ago, and if she is otherwise when I find her...
Camera moves into a close-up of Prince Humperdink. His rage is almost beyond control.
I shall be very put out.
From his fury, as they take off, we cut to the man in black leading Buttercup along the edge of an almost sheer ravine. The drop is sharp and severe. Below, the ravine floor is flat, but getting there would not be half the fun.
Who was this love of yours? Another prince like this one? Ugly, rich, scabby?
No, a farm boy. Poor and perfect, with eyes like the sea after a storm.
Cut to Buttercup close up, and probably, if she did not hate Robert so, there would be tears.
Your ship attacked, and the dread pirate Roberts never takes prisoners.
Can't afford to make exceptions. Once word leaks out that a pirate has gone soft, people begin to disobey you, and then it's nothing but work, work, work all the time.
You mock my pain.
Life is pain, Highness. Anyone who says differently is selling something. I remember your farm boy, I think. This would be, what, 5 years ago? Does it bother you to hear?
Nothing you can say will upset me. My heart is now a secret garden, and the walls are very high.
Died well. That should please you. No bribe attempts or blubbering. He simply said, please, please, I need to live. It was the please that caught my memory. I asked what was so important for him here. True love, he replied. And then he spoke of a girl of surpassing beauty and faithfulness. I only assume he meant you. You should bless me with destroying him before he found out what you are.
And what am I?
Faithfulness, he talked of, madam. Your enduring faithfulness. Now tell me truly, when you found out he was gone, did you get engaged to your prince that same hour, or did you wait a whole week out of respect for the dead?
You mocked me once, never do it again. I died that day.
Cut to the man in black, about to reply as they stand there on the edge of the sheer ravine, but then something catches his attention and he stares at it briefly. Cut to his point of view, the dust cloud caused by Humperdink's horses is rising up in the sky as we cut to Buttercup, and while his attention is on the dust cloud rising high, she pushes him with all the strength she has.
You can die too, for all I care.
Cut to the man in black, teetering on the ravine edge. For a moment, he begins to fall. Down goes the man in black, down, down, rolling, spinning, crashing, always down towards the flat rock floor of the ravine. We cut to Buttercup staring transfixed at what she's wrought. There's a long pause as she stands there, alone at night, as from far below the words come to her drifting on the wind. As you Cut to the ravine floor. The man in black feebly moves, manages to pull his mask from his face, and cut to Buttercup blinking back her tears.
Oh, my sweet Westley, what have I done?
And without a second thought or consideration of the dangers, she starts down the ravine. She does wonderfully, at least for a while. But then it gets too sharp. A rock she holds to betrays her, giving way, and then she's falling too, spinning and twisting and crashing and torn, cartwheeling down towards what is left of her beloved. Cut to the dust cloud rising. Pull back to reveal Prince Humperdink and the others reining in at the spot where Buttercup told the man in black she knew he was the dread pirate Roberts, and the prince shakes his head.
We've cut the lead to less than half an hour. They must have seen our dust cloud closing in, which might account for their panicking into error. Unless I am wrong, and I am never wrong, they are headed dead into the fire swamp.
Cut to Count Rugen. The mere mention of the fire swamp makes him pale. Cut to the ravine floor. As seen from high above, two bodies lie a few feet apart, not moving. It is, of course, Buttercup and Westley. They might be corpses. After a time, Westley slowly forces his body into motion, and as he does, we cut to Buttercup, bruised and torn as Westley crawls slowly towards her.
Can you move at all?
Move. You're alive. If you want, I can fly. Oh, Westley, dearest.
Remember I said I would always come for you. Why didn't you wait for me?
You were dead.
You should have had more faith, child. Death cannot stop true love. All it can do is delay it for.
I will never doubt again.
There will never be a need.
Cut to, and now they begin to kiss. It's a tender kiss, tender and loving and gentle and...
Oh no.
And
no, please.
cut to the kid's bedroom. What's the matter?
They're kissing again. Do we have to hear the kissing part?
Someday you might not mind so much.
That's true. Skip to the fire swamp. That sounded good.
You're sick. I'll humor you. He picks up the book and we cut to Buttercup and Westley. Racing along the ravine floor, Westley glances up. Cut to Humperdink and his men perched on top of the cliff looking down at Westley and Buttercup.
Your pig fiancé is too late. Just a few more steps and we'll be safe in the fire swamp.
Cut to Buttercup, and Wesley's tried to say it with nonchalance, but she isn't buying. Instantly afraid, she stops.
We'll never survive.
Nonsense. You're only saying that because no one ever has.
As they race off, leaving Humperdink and his men stranded, defeated, we cut to the fire swamp. And it really doesn't look any worse than other moist, sulfurous, infernal horror you might run across. Great trees block the sun. Westley and Buttercup. Buttercup is clearly panicked, and maybe Westley is too, but he moves jauntily along, sword in hand.
You know, I'm kind of disappointed. It's not that bad. I'm not saying that I built a summer home here, but the trees are actually quite lovely.
Cut to the giant trees, thick and black green. They look ominous as hell, and they shield all but intermittent stripes of sun. Cut to a giant spurt of flame, leaping up, preceded by a slight popping sound, and this particular spurt of flame misses Westley, but Buttercup is suddenly on fire. At least the lower half of her is, and we cut to Westley instantly diving at her, knocking her to the moist ground, throwing his own body over the flames, suffocating them. This isn't all that easy, and it causes him a bit of grief, but he does his best to sound as jaunty as before. Westley helps her to her feet. She is dazed, and her panic has grown, and he seems all excited.
Oh, now, that was an adventure.
He examines where the flames burst over her.
Singe a bit, were you?
You?
He was, and he shakes his head no. Cut to the swamp floor, and there's another popping sound as we cut to Westley grabbing Buttercup, pulling her safely aside as another great spurt of flame suddenly shoots up.
One thing I would say, the fire swamp does keep you on your toes.
Buttercup is frozen with fear. He takes her hand, gently leads her forward as we dissolve to the two of them, moving slowly along through the particularly dangerous part of the fire swamp. It's later now. The sun slants down at a slightly different angle.
This will all soon be but a happy memory because Robert's ship Revenge is anchored at the far end. And I, as you know, am Robert's.
How is that possible since he's been marauding 20 years and you've only left me 5 years ago?
I myself am often quite surprised at life's little quirks. You see, what I told you before about saying please was true. It intrigued Roberts, my saying please, as in my descriptions of your beauty.
Cut to some hideous vines. They look like they could be flesh-eating. Westley takes his sword, slices a path for them to follow, and the vines groan as they fall. He's been chatting away the entire time.
Finally, Roberts decided something. He said, all right, Wesley, I've never had a valet, but you can try it for tonight. Most likely kill you in the morning. For 3 years, he said that. Good night, Wesley. Good work. Sleep well. I'll most likely kill you in the morning. It was a fine time for me. I was alive and learning to fence, to fight, anything anyone would teach me. Roberts and I would eventually become friends. Then it happened.
What? Go on.
Cut to Westley picking her up, carrying her across the swamp that's bridged by a narrow, rickety tree branch.
Roberts had grown so rich, he wanted to retire. Took me to his quarters and told me a secret. I am not the Dread Pirate Roberts, he said. Name is Ryan. I inherited the ship from the previous Dread Pirate Roberts, just as you inherited from me. The man I inherited from was not the real Dread Pirate Roberts either. His name was Cumberbund. The real Roberts has been retired 15 years and living like a king in Pentonia. Then he explained that the name was the important thing for inspiring a necessary fear. No one was surrendered to the Dread Pirate Westley.
The two of them have by now crossed the pond.
So we set ashore, took on a entirely new crew, and stayed aboard for a while. As first mate, all the time calling me Roberts. Once the crew believed, he left the ship and I have been Roberts ever since. Except now that we are together, I shall retire and hand the name over to someone else. Is everything clear to you?
Cut to Buttercup, about to reply, but the ground she steps on gives way. It's snow sand, a great patch of it, and it was her. A cloud of powder rises as she sinks into the stuff, crying Wesley's name, but then she's gone. As we cut to Wesley whirling, slashing at the U-shaped vine, hacks it in half. It's still connected to the tree. Then he grabs it and drops his sword, and, clutching the other end of the vine, he dives into the snow sand, and there's another cloud of white powder. But it settles quickly. Now nothing can be seen. Nothing at all. Just the snow sand. Lovely and lethal. Hold on to the snow sand, and then cut to the giant trees. Nothing much moves. The snow sand is quiet. An odd panting sound is heard now. The panting sound is suddenly very loud. And then a giant ROUS darts into view. The ROUS, a rodent of unusual size, is probably no more than 80 pounds of bone and power. It sniffs around a bit, and then as quickly as its comet goes, climbing, it continued to climb and then stops. Rests, looks down from a tree branch, panting and deadly. We cut to the snow sand as Wesley lunges long past the bursting point, explodes out as he and Buttercup across his shoulders as he puts to the edge of snow sand the pit using the vine. We cut to a close-up of Buttercup. Her face is caked with the white powder. It's in her eyes, her ears, her hair, her mouth. She's still probably beautiful, but you have to look awfully hard to see it. As Wesley continues to pull them to safety, we cut to the ROUS. High above them, it watches. Cut to Buttercup, placed sitting, her back against a tree. Wesley is cleaning the snow sand from her face. He hesitates, glances around, and we cut to the ROUS on a much lower branch now. It stares down at Wesley. We cut to Wesley staring back at the beast. Buttercup is oblivious, her eyes flutter. He continues to work her as we...
We'll never succeed. We may as well die here.
You've already succeeded.
Cut to, now there are two ROUSs. They've climbed onto a nearby tree and stare hungrily down. We cut to Wesley picking her up, puts an arm around her, starts to walk with her as he encouragingly goes on talking.
What are the three terrors of the fire swamp? One, the flame spurts, no problem. There's a little popping sound preceding each. We can avoid that. Two, the snow sand. But you were clever enough to discover that it looks like so in the future. We can avoid that too.
What about the RUSs, Westley?
Drones of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
And as he says that, a third
Oh.
ROUS, one we haven't seen before, comes flying down at him from a tree branch. Cut to Buttercup screaming, and cut to the ROUS attacking Wesley's shoulder as his razor teeth and blood begins immediately to flow. And cut to Wesley with death close at hand as popping sound starts. Cut to a flame spurt shooting skywards, and cut to Wesley as with one desperate move he rolls onto the flame, but he has one of the ROUSs underneath him, and as the ROUS bursts into flames, lets go, Wesley rolls safely free, grabs his sword, and slashes the ROUS, which is trying to put itself out. The ROUS collapses dead. Wesley stands motionless, exhausted. The danger has passed, and we cut to Buttercup relieved. Cut to Wesley, he manages a smile. Suddenly, a hard, triumphant sound is heard, and Wesley turns. Cut to the ROUS standing in front of him after a beat. The second ROUS lands next to the first, and slowly they advance on Wesley. Cut to Wesley guarding himself. Cut to the ROUS is advancing. Suddenly they break into a fierce charge, and cut to Wesley standing his ground. Cut to ROUS is charging right past Wesley and diving onto the dead ROUS. Buttercup, scared, going to Wesley, both of them starting as we cut to the dead ROUS. Its companions devour it. Wesley leads Buttercup away. Dissolve to Buttercup and Wesley, moving slower than ever, they look like death. Then they stop and gaze ahead as we cut to the far edge of the fire swamp, just ahead, beyond the beach, and cut to Buttercup and Wesley.
We did it.
Now, was that so terrible?
Cut to something we hadn't expected. Prince Humperdink in close-up.
Surrender.
Pull back to reveal. Humperdink on his horse, Rugen beside him, 3 warriors armed and ready are mounted in formation behind. Buttercup and Wesley are at the edge of the fire swamp, about to leave it, and they stop. Buttercup looks beyond exhaustion, and Wesley looks worse. It's dusk. Beyond Humperdink are the waters of the bay. Cut to Wesley and Buttercup staring out at the others.
You mean you wish to surrender to me? Very well, I accept.
I give you full marks for bravery. Don't make yourself a fool.
How will you capture us? We have the secrets of the fire swamp. We can live there happily for quite some time. Whenever you feel like dying, feel free to visit.
Cut to Humperdink.
I tell you again, surrender.
Cut to Wesley.
Death will not happen!
Cut to Buttercup, looking from one to the other, then something else catches her eye, and we cut to an armed warrior in shadow with a loaded crossbow aimed at Wesley's heart. Cut to Buttercup, looking the other way. Cut to another warrior, crossbow aimed at Wesley. Cut to Humperdink.
For the last time, surrender.
Cut to Wesley.
Death first!
Cut to Buttercup, frantically staring around, and now we cut to the third warrior, crossbow stretched, ready to fire. This one is hidden in a tree, blocking any escape that Wesley might try.
Will you promise not to hurt him?
Cut to Humperdink, whirling to face her.
What was that?
Cut to Wesley, whirling to face her.
What was that?
Cut to Buttercup, talking to them both.
We surrender, freely and without struggle. Will you promise not to hurt this man?
May I live 1,000 years and never hunt again.
He is a poor, simple sailor on the pirate ship Revenge. I have known him since we were young. Will you promise to return him to his ship?
Cut to Prince Humperdink and Count Rugen.
I swear it will be done. Once we're out of sight, take him to the pit of despair.
I swear it will be done.
Cut to Buttercup and Wesley.
I thought you were dead once. It almost destroyed me. I could not have you die again. Not when I can save you.
Cut to Wesley, close up, dazed, silent. Cut to Buttercup, about to come apart in the seams emotionally. She starts to speak again, but can't, and turns, starts away. And cut to Wesley watching. Cut to Humperdink, riding to her, swooping her up into his horse, racing off. Cut to Wesley, staring after her as Rugen, dismounted now, and his warriors advance on Wesley. The Count has a heavy sword, and he holds it in his hands.
Come, sir, we must get you to your ship.
We are men of action. Lies do not become us.
Well spoke.
Wesley is looking at him.
What is it?
You have 6 fingers on your right hand. Someone was looking for you.
Count Rugen clubs Wesley hard across the skull. Cut to Wesley. He falls like a stone, and the screen goes black. In the darkness, frightening sounds fade in on Something even more frightening. A giant cage, dank and chill, underground and windowless, thickly barred. Westley lies in the center of the cage, chained and helpless. Cut to something really frightening. A bloodless-looking albino, dead pale. He silently enters the cage, carrying a tray of food and medication. He puts it down.
Where are we?
Pit of despair.
He begins tending to Wesley's wounds, and Wesley winces.
Don't even think Don't even think about trying to escape. Your chains are much too thick, and don't dream of rescue either. The only way in here is secret. Only the prince, the count, and I know how to get in and out.
I'm here till I die, then?
Till they kill you. Yeah, of course.
Then why bother curing me?
The prince and the count always insist everyone be healthy before they're broken.
So it's to be torture. I can cope with the torture. You don't believe me?
You survived the fire swamp, you must be very brave. But no one withstands the machine.
He studies Wesley. His face is almost sad. Cut to Buttercup, and her face is sad. Pallid, perhaps ill, she wanders down a corridor in Florin Castle as she moves unseeing past the intersecting corridor. Cut to Prince Humperdink and Count Rugen watching her.
She's been like that ever since the fire swamp. It's my father's failing health that's upsetting her.
As they move on, cut to Florin Castle at night. Camera holds on it while we hear the grandfather's voice reading. The king died that very night, and before the following dawn, Buttercup and Humperdink were married at noon. She met her subjects again, and this time as their queen and...
Oh, hey, hold it a sec, please.
Cut to the kid's room. The kid is half sitting now, not strong yet, but clearly stronger than when we first saw him. His grandfather, sitting on the bed now, holds the book.
Grandpa, you read that wrong. She doesn't marry Humperdink. She marries Wesley. I'm just sure of it. After all that Wesley did for her, if she didn't marry him, it wouldn't be fair.
Who said life was fair? Where is that written? Life isn't fair. It's just fairer than death, that's all.
I'm telling you, you're messing up the story. Now get it right.
Do you want me to read this?
Yes. Yes, I do.
Okay then, no more interruptions. At noon, she met her subjects again, this time as queen. And on these words, we cut to Prince Humperdink, the same balcony we first saw him in full color. Count Rugen stands behind him.
My father's final words were, "Love her as I loved her, and there will be joy. I present to you your queen, Queen Buttercup."
And on his words, we cut to the crowd, and it is gigantic. We cut to the balcony as Buttercup emerges, and she descends the staircase. Cut to the crowd suddenly going to its knees, wave after wave of silent, kneeling people, all of them down. Cut to Buttercup, touched as before, but then she seems stunned as we cut to the crowd. Someone is booing. The booing gets louder as an ancient woman approaches Buttercup through the crowd, booing every step of the way.
Boo.
Why'd you do this?
Because you had true love in your hands and you gave it up for gold.
But they wouldn't have killed Wesley if I hadn't done it.
Your true love lives and you're going to marry another. True love saved her in the fire swamp and she treated it like garbage. And that is what she is, the queen of refuse. So cheer her if you want. Cheer the queen of slime, the cheer of muck, the queen of putrescence. Boo! Boo!
Nice. She advances on Buttercup now, who is more and more panicked. Cut to close-up of the ancient booer, louder and louder and louder. She shrieks vituperation at Buttercup, reaching out her old hands towards Buttercup's throat. And Buttercup is frightened now, as Dorothy was when the witch went after her in The Wizard of Oz. And suddenly cut to Buttercup coming out of her nightmare, alone in her castle bedroom, as she frantically grabs a robe and starts to run. It was still 20 days till the wedding. The king still lived, but Buttercup's nightmares were growing steadily worse.
See, See, didn't I tell you she'd never marry that rotten Humperdink?
Yes, yes, you're very smart. Shut up. Cut to Buttercup banging on the door to the prince's chambers. He opens the door, brings her in. Count Rugen is seated in the desk covered with the official-looking papers.
It comes to this. I love Westley. I always have. I know I always will. If you tell me I must marry you in 20 days, please believe I will be dead by morning.
Cut to Prince Humperdink, just stunned. Finally, softly, he begins to talk.
I could never cause you grief. Consider our wedding off. You return this Westley to his ship, then we will simply alert him. Beloved, are you certain he still wants you? After all, it was you who did the leading in the fire swamp. Not to mention that pirates are not known to be men of their words.
My Westley will always come for me.
I suggest a deal. You write 4 copies of the letter. I'll send my 4 fastest ships, 1 in each direction. The dread pirate Roberts is often close to Florin this time of year. We'll run up a white flag and deliver your message. If Westley wants you, bless you both. If not, please consider me as an alternative to suicide. Are we agreed?
As she nods, a very thick grove of trees. It's later that night. The trees are unusual in one respect. All of them are extraordinarily heavily knotted. Pull back to reveal Humperdink and Rugen dressed as before, walking into the grove of trees.
She really is a winning creature. A trifle simple, perhaps, but her appeal is undeniable.
I know, the people are quite taken with her. It's odd, but when I hired Vizzini to have her murdered on our engagement day, I thought that was clever. But it's going to be much more moving when I strangle her on our wedding night. Once Gilder is blamed, the nation will be truly outraged. They'll demand we go to war.
They are deeper into the tree grove now, and Rugen is searching around.
Now, where is that secret knot? It's miserable finding this place at night. We made it too secret. Ah. Coming down to the pit. Wesley's almost got his strength back. I'm starting him on the machine soon.
Tyrone, you know I love watching you work, but I've got my country's 500th anniversary to plan, my wedding to arrange, my wife to murder, and Gilder to frame for it. I'm swamped.
Get some rest. If you haven't got your health, you haven't got anything.
Rugen smiles, waves, hurries down the stairs as the tree slides back perfectly into place. Cut to Humperdink in his quarters, swamped. Piles of papers are strewn all over. Now Yellin, a pale, shifty, quick-eyed man, appears in the doorway.
Yellin,
Sire!
as chief enforcer of our Florin, I trust you with this secret. Killers from Gilder are infiltrating our thieves' quarter and plan to murder my bride on our wedding night.
My spy network has heard no such news.
Any word from Westley?
To the prince and Yellin, turning to her in the doorway.
It's too soon, my angel. Patience.
He will come for me.
Of course.
As she glides out,
She will not be murdered. I want the thieves' quarter emptied and locked and every inhabitant arrested.
Many of the thieves will resist. My regular enforcers will be inadequate.
Form a brute squad, then. The thieves' quarter must be closed before I wed.
It won't be easy, sire.
Try ruling the world sometime.
cut to an enormous thing. We can't tell quite what it is or what it does, but somehow it's unsettling. Camera pulls back to reveal Count Rugen, dragging the thing up alongside Westley in the cage. Levers and wheels and wires, you name it, it's there.
Beautiful, isn't it? It took me half a lifetime to invent it.
Cut to the albino in a far corner in shadow, watching, afraid. Cut to Count Rugen working away, attaching more suction cups to Westley.
I'm sure you discovered my deep and abiding interest in pain. At present, I'm writing the definitive work on the subject, so I want you, please, to be totally honest with me on how the machine makes you feel.
Cut to a dial with numbers ranging from a low of 1 to a high of 50, and Rugen goes to it.
This being our first try, I'll use the lowest setting.
As he turns the dial to 1, we cut to Westley. He has cups on his head now, on his temples, on his heart, on his hands and feet. He says nothing, keeps control of himself. Cut to Count Rugen, fiddling with his machine a moment more.
Now, all we have to do is get the wheels spinning to generate power, and we should be in business.
And the minute the machine really starts, we cut to Westley, and he's lying on the table, and he's only flesh, and the chains are metal and thick, but such is his desperation, it almost seems he might break them. A terrible sound comes from his throat, an incessant gasping. It keeps coming as we finally cut to Count Rugen. He switches off the machine, picks up a large notebook and pen, sits on the chair. The noise of the machine subsides. Rugen opens the book to a blank page.
As you must know, the concept of the suction pump is centuries old. Well, really, that's all this is, except that instead of sucking water, I'm sucking life. I've just sucked 1 year of your life away. If I set the dial to 2, that would mean 2 years gone, 2 times the pain. I might sometimes go as high as 5, but I don't know what that would do to you. So, let's start with what we have. What did this do to you? Tell me. And remember now, this is for posterity, so be honest. How do you feel?
And now at last we cut to Westley, in anguish so deep it's dizzying. Helpless he cries. Count Rugen watches the tears and starts to write.
Interesting.
We cut to the thieves' quarters. A lot of hollering is going on. The thieves are being rounded up by the brute squad. A large group of men. Yellin stands at the wagon in midst of all the scuffling.
Is everybody out?
Almost. There's a drunk Spaniard with a sword that's been giving us some trouble.
Then you give him some trouble.
He signals for the wagon to start, and as it does, we cut to the assistant brute, watching Yellin go, and then as he hurries along a narrow street, we cut to the assistant turning a corner. Slowly, a familiar voice is heard, getting louder as the assistant draws near.
I'm waiting for Vizzini. You told me to go back to the beginning, and so I have. This is where I am, and this is where I stay. I will not be moved.
Now, as the assistant peers into a tiny courtyard, we cut to Inigo, sitting slumped in a filthy stoop, a bottle of brandy in one hand, a 6-fingered sword in the other. He looks dreadful, unshaven, puffy-eyed, gaunt. But the way he brandishes the greatsword in front of him would give anyone pause for worry. Cut to the assistant, moving away from Inigo's sight, gesturing as he calls out.
You, brute, come here.
Cut to Inigo as before, taking a long pull from his brandy bottle, and he stops as the assistant brute comes into view.
Oh, there.
I don't budge. Keep your hole there.
Prince gave orders.
So did Vizzini. When a job goes wrong, you go back to the beginning. This is where we got the job, so this is the beginning, and I'm staying here until Vizzini comes.
I don't think so.
Cut to Inigo being lifted into the air by a brute as the assistant brute called for.
I'm waiting for Vizzini.
You surely are a meanie.
Fezzik?
Who says Zik?
The camera pulls back to reveal the brute holding Inigo. It is indeed a very happy Fezzik. Cut to the assistant brute moving quickly and unnoticed on the other two. Fezzik still holds Inigo, and the assistant brute brings out a club, raises it. Neither Inigo or Fezzik is watching, just babbling to each other in rhymes.
It's you.
True.
As the assistant brute is just about to club Inigo's brains out, Fezzik lies fly with the stupendous punch. The assistant brute takes the full force of the blow, fight right in the chops. It's like he was shot from a cannon as he careens backwards out of sight across the street. There is a pause, and when a crunching sound as he clearly has come into contact with something hard and immobile. We cut to Fezzik putting Inigo down.
Oh, you don't look so good. Oh, you don't smell so good either.
Perhaps not. But I feel fine.
And he faints. As he does, we cut to an empty alehouse in the thieves' quarter. Inigo sits slumped in a chair, still out, while Fezzik brings over a plate of food, slaps him gently awake, and starts to feed him.
Well, does that make a difference?
Shh. Take it easy.
I'm sorry for fainting before, but I've done nothing all these days but drink and wait for Vizzini. I'm helpless without Vizzini. And the surprise, like seeing you, that was just too much for my empty stomach. But I'm fine now.
Good. Vizzini is dead.
Dead, you say? Fish.
And he faints again. We cut to Inigo. He lies on a bed above the alehouse kitchen. Out again as Fezzik appears with a bowl, begins toweling Inigo's face with warm water.
Oh, that's nice and warm. It feels wonderful.
I hope so.
Forgive me, my friend. I never realized I was in such terrible condition. But seeing you and hearing about Vizzini, I wasn't ready at all. Now I'm ready for anything.
Wonderful. The six-fingered man is named Count Rugen, and it is at this very moment here in Florin.
Ecstasy!
And as he faints again, we cut to two large tubs, one filled with steaming water, the other with water of clearly icy nature. Without a word, Fezzik picks up Inigo by the scruff of the neck, ducks him into the icy water. Then, after a reasonable amount of time, what's reasonable, he pulls him out, ducks him into the steaming stuff, and a short time after that, puts him back in the cold again. Then back to the hot.
You'll thank me for this someday.
No, I won't.
But that's all he has time to say, because then he's submerged again as he comes up for air.
Where is Rugen so I may kill him?
He's with the prince in the castle. The castle is locked till after the wedding tomorrow night, and only one door has been left unsealed. 30 men guard it.
How many could you handle?
They're the cream of the brute squad, so I don't think more than 10.
Even 20 for me, and at my best I could never defeat that many. I need Vizzini to plan. I have no gift for strategy.
But Vizzini is dead, and I'm no help since I haven't done one thing right in over 11 years.
Cut to the two of them, silent and bereft. A wild look hits Inigo.
No. Not Vizzini. I need the man in black.
What?
Look, he bested you with strength, your greatness. He bested me with steel. He must have out-taught Vizzini, and the man who can do that can plan my castle onslaught any day. I wonder about him often.
The rumors are that he was the princess's true love.
Tell me later. Let's go.
Where?
To find the man in black, obviously.
You don't know where he is?
Don't bother me with trifles. After 20 years, at last my father's soul will be at peace.
Cut to a close-up of Inigo.
There will be blood tonight!
He exits. Cut to close-up of Fezzik.
Ours?
Cut to Prince Humperdink's chambers, strewn with maps, etc. Buttercup is with him, and Yellin enters.
Rise and report.
The thieves' quarter is shuttered. 30 men guard the castle gate.
Add 70 more. 100 brutes. My princess must be safe.
The main gate has but one key, and I carry that.
He shows the key dangling from a chain around his neck.
Tonight we marry. Tomorrow morning your men will escort us to Florin Channel, where every ship in my armada will accompany us on our honeymoon.
Every ship but your 4 fastest, you mean?
Prince looks at her blankly for a moment.
Every ship but the 4 you sent?
Oh, yes, of course. Naturally not those 4.
Your Majesties.
Cut to Buttercup staring at Humperdink.
You never said the ships. Don't bother lying. Doesn't matter. Westley will come for me anyway.
What a silly girl.
Yes, I am a silly girl for not having seen sooner that you were nothing but a coward with a heart full of fear.
I would not say such things if I were you.
Why not? You can't just hurt me. Westley and I are joined by the bonds of love, and you cannot track that, not with 1,000 bloodhounds, and you cannot break it, not with 1,000 swords. And when I say you are a coward, that is only because you are the slimiest weakling ever to crawl the earth.
Cut to Humperdink jumping at her, yanking her by the hair, starting to pull her along, out of control, his words indistinct.
I would not say such things if I were you.
Cut to Buttercup's room as the prince throws it open, hurls her inside, slams it shut, locks it, breaks into a wild run, and cut to Humperdink racing towards the grove of trees that hide the entrance to the pit of despair. Cut to Westley in the machine, but it's not on. Count Rugen is making a few adjustments. He looks up at the prince, suddenly comes down the steps, raging.
You truly love each other, so you might have been truly happy. Not one couple in a century has that chance, no matter what the storybooks say, and so I think no man in a century will suffer as greatly as you will.
And with that, he whirls, turns on the machine, grabs the lever, and cut to Count Rugen, calling out,
Not to 50!
but it's too late. As we cut to Prince Humperdink shoving the lever all the way down, and cut to Wesley's face, and there has never been such pain. The pain grows and grows, and with it now, something else has started. The death scream. As the death scream starts to rise, the albino, watching from the shadows, he starts to shiver. The scream continues to rise. Cut to outside the pit of despair, the sound moves along louder and louder, and cut to Buttercup in her room. She hears the sound, doesn't know what it is, but her arms involuntarily go around her body, trying to control the trembling. And cut to Yellin and his 100 brutes, and they hear it, and a few of the brutes turn to each other in fear as the scream builds. Cut to the square outside the castle. There are many people. It's the eve of the country's 500th anniversary, but all the people stop as the sound hits them. A few children pale, bolt towards their parents, and cut to Inigo and Fezzik trying to make their way through a jammed, narrow alleyway, which suddenly quiets as the fading sound comes through.
Fezzik, listen, do you hear? That is the sound of ultimate suffering. My heart made that sound when Rugen slaughtered my father. The man in black makes it now.
How do you know?
His true love is marrying another tomorrow, so who else could have cause for ultimate suffering for this celebration night? Excuse me.
It's too crowded.
Pardon me, it's important.
No one budges, and the sound is fading faster.
Fezzik, help me.
The camera zooms into Fezzik, gigantic and roaring.
Everybody move!
And as his great arms start to push, the crowd begins to fall away, and he and Inigo part to track the fading sound. Cut to a small shed near the grove of trees near the pit of despair. It's dark now. As the albino appears, opens the shed door, takes out a wheelbarrow. Cut to the trees as the albino wheels the barrow towards it, and suddenly...
I'm having devils on time tracking that scream.
Inigo moves into view, his sword at the albino's throat.
Where's the man in black? Where? You get there from this grove, yes? Jog his memory, Fezzik.
And Fezzik crunches the albino on top of the head, as if he had a hammer and was driving in a nail. The albino drops without a sound.
Oh, I'm sorry, Inigo. I didn't mean to jog him so hard. I guess his head got closer to my hand than I meant to. And Inigo?
Cut to Inigo. He kneels, the sword held tight between his hands. Eyes closed, the face in the grove of the trees starts to talk, his voice low and strange.
Being a drunk, a sinner, a wastrel, and a fool. I have had my share of suffering, Father. I failed you for 20 years, and now our misery can end. Somewhere close by is a man who can help us. I can't find him alone. I need you.
And now he rises, eyes still closed.
I need you to guide my sword. Please, guide my sword.
Cut to the grove of trees as Inigo, eyes shut tight, walks forward, the great sword held in his hands. Fezzik, frightened, follows close behind. Cut to the secret knot that reveals the staircase. Cut to Inigo, walking blind through the grove of trees. He moves to the secret knot, hesitates, then moves past it. Then Inigo stops. For a long moment, he stands frozen. Suddenly he whirls, eyes still closed, and the sword strikes home dead center into the secret knot, and the instant it does, cut to the tree. It slides away, revealing the staircase. Fezzik and Inigo look at each other, then start down. Inigo is in the lead, while Fezzik follows close behind as we cut to Westley, dead by the machine. Cut to Fezzik rushing to Westley, kneeling down, touching him. Then he looks at Inigo, shakes his head.
He's dead.
Cut Inigo into despair. For a moment, he just sags.
Just isn't fair.
Grandpa. Wait a minute.
Cut to the kid's room. He's terribly excited and looks stronger than we've seen him.
what did Fezzik mean? He's dead. He didn't mean dead. I mean, Wesley's only faking, right?
He's not faking.
Oh
Cut to
no.
the kid close up.
Oh no, who gets Humperdink?
I don't understand.
Who kills Prince Humperdink at the end? Somebody's got to get him. Is it Indigo? Who is it?
Inigo?
Yeah.
Nobody kills Humperdink. He lives.
You mean he wins? Jesus, Grandpa, what did you read me this thing for?
And he desperately fights for control. You've been awful sick. You're taking this look very serious. I think we should stop now. Grandpa starts to get up.
No, it's okay. It's okay. Sit back down. Don't worry. I'm okay. I'm like Buttercup now. My heart's a secret garden and the walls are very high.
His grandfather opens the book and starts to read. We cut to Inigo in despair. We're back in the pit, the same as before. For a moment, he just sags.
Just isn't fair.
Inigo takes a deep breath.
Well, we Montoyas have never taken defeat easily. Come along, Fezzik, and bring the body.
The body?
Have you any money? I used all mine on brandy.
I've got a little.
I just hope it's enough to buy a miracle, that's all.
Fezzik takes the corpse, follows Inigo up the stairs. We cut to Buttercup staring out the window of a room.
I know you're out there, Wesley. I know you're coming for me now.
As she continues to stare, we cut to exterior hovel at dusk. Inigo, Fezzik, Wesley approach the door. They knock. From inside the hovel, a man's voice is heard. If Mel Brooks' 2,000-year-old man was really old, he'd resemble this guy.
Go away.
Are you the Miracle Max who works for the king all those years?
The king's stinking son fired me. Did you hear? It's a very painful subject. Now go away.
He shuts the window and they rap on the door.
Hey, beat it, or I'll call the brute squad.
I'm on the brute squad.
We need a miracle. It's very important.
I'm retired, and besides, why would you want someone the king's stinking son fired? I might kill whoever you wanted me to meet a miracle.
He's already dead.
He is, huh? Now let me take a look. Also, you are the brute squad.
Okay. He unlocks the door and lets them in. We cut to Inigo and Fezzik hurrying inside, and Fezzik carries Wesley, who is just starting to stiffen up a little. He lays Wesley down across the bench by the fireplace.
Not so stiff as some.
He studies Wesley a moment, as if making up his mind.
So we're in a terrible rush.
Don't hurt me, Sonny. You hurry a miracle, man. You get rotten miracles. You got money?
65.
I never worked for so little ever, except once, when it was a noble cause, and...
This is noble, sir. His wife is crippled, his children are on the brink of starvation.
Are you a rotten liar?
I need him to help avenge my father, murdered just 20 years ago.
Your first story was better. Where's that bellows? He probably owes you money. I'll ask him.
He goes to get the huge bellows.
He's dead. He can't talk.
Look, who knows so much? It just so happens there's a different kinds of dead.
Max inserts the bellows in Wesley's mouth and starts to pump.
There's sort of dead, mostly dead, and all of dead. Lucky for you. This fella here, he's mostly dead. Once they get to be all dead, there's only one thing you can do.
What's that?
He stops pumping.
I'll give you a hint. Involve digging and burying.
He starts pumping again.
Hey, what's so important? Why you got here? What's words coming back for? Something that takes a while for a bellows crammed to work, so...
Oh, love.
Cut to Fezzik jumping behind Inigo in panic as everybody stares at Wesley lying there on the bench.
True love. You heard them. You couldn't ask for a more noble cause than that.
Sonny, True love is the best thing in the world, except for cough drops. But he didn't say it. He very clearly said to blav, which, as everyone knows, means to bluff. So you guys were probably in a card game, and he got caught bluffing. And bluffing is the source of material. That's useful.
Where? Valerie, in ancient fury, storms out of the back room towards Max.
A black witch.
Okay, anyway.
That wi-
There's no L in that word, but okay.
Yeah.
I'm not genuine, but I'm not sure I want to be that anymore after what you said. It was true love, Max. True love. My God.
Don't say any more, Valerie.
He is afraid. Ever since Prince Humperdink fired him, his confidence is shattered.
You said his name. You promised me you would never say his name.
What? Humperdink? Humperdink. 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 Humperdink.
I'm not listening.
He was right to fire you. At least he knows a phony when he sees one.
Nobody's hearing anything.
But this is
Humperdink.
Buttercup.
Humperdink. Humperdink.
This is Buttercup's true love. Bring him back to life, and he'll stop Humperdink's wedding.
He comes back. Humperdink suffers.
Humiliations galore.
Ah, now that's a noble cause. Give me the 65. I'm on the job. Valerie, bring me my spell encyclopedia and the hex appendix.
Cut to Max as Valerie scurries after some large dusty books.
You understand he won't be good for much right off.
What parts can I count on?
Well, the wedding at 8 tonight, that's 3 hours away, which means if we're lucky, the tongue will work and absolutely the brain, and he might be able to walk a little if you give him a nudge to get him started.
Cut to Fezzik and Inigo crowding around Max as he practically licks his lip at something in one of the books.
Valerie, listen to these ingredients. What a recipe. Toad dust, volcanic mud, eel marrow.
As Max drones on,
Grandpa, can't we skip on here? I'm not crazy about recipes.
you don't want to know how they make it?
I just want to know if it works.
Dissolve to this lump. It's somewhat smaller than a tennis ball. Pull back to reveal Max and Valerie exhausted, looking at the lump with beatific pleasure as Valerie, cooking utensil in hand, covers the thing with what looks like chocolate. Inigo and Fezzik stare at the thing to do, but more dubiously.
That's a miracle pill?
The
The
chocolate
chocolate coating makes it go down easier, but you have to wait 20 minutes for full potency.
Cut to Inigo taking the pill as Fezzik takes Westley, who is stiff as a board now.
Thank you for everything.
Have fun storming the castle.
Think it'll work?
I wouldn't. It would take a miracle. Bye, kids.
Bye-bye, boys!
Bye-bye, boys.
She doesn't either. They drop their arms, stare silently and sadly as we cut to Prince Humperdink in his wedding suit. Rugen is with him. They stand there in the terrace outside the prince's chambers.
Yellin has the 100 brutes.
Waiting with him outside the main gate. I've brought 4 men with me. They're only guards inside the castle.
What else is there? I've got the boots of a Gilda army officer, and I'll track around in the mud after I've killed him. I'll say I saw them making their escape, and the boot prints will prove it. It's not much of a case, but it's proof enough. No one ever likes to doubt you when you run a country. We should be at war by morning if God is on our side.
Now, as they move inside, we cut to Fezzik and Inigo Westley at the top of the outer wall of the castle. They look down the front gate of the castle. The 100 brutes are visible. Cut to Fezzik, thunderstruck by how many brutes there are. Upset, he turns to Inigo, who is concentrating, unsuccessfully trying to prop Westley against the wall.
Inigo, there are more than 30.
What's the difference? We've got him. Help me here. Got the force field.
Has it been 20 minutes?
Yeah, we can't wait. The wedding's in half an hour, and we must strike in the hustle and bustle beforehand.
During this, Fezzik, using all his strength, has managed to get Westley into a right-angled sitting position, while Inigo brings out the miracle pill.
I'd open his mouth and tilt his head back.
How long do you think we'll have to wait before we know if that's a miracle or not?
Cut to Inigo, pill in hand, drops it in Wesley's mouth.
Yeah, your guess is as good as
I beat you about the pot. I take your butt together.
I guess not that long.
Inigo and Fezzik reacts, and Westley is the only one not amazed.
Why won't my arms move?
He sits there immobile like a ventriloquist dummy.
You've been mostly dead all day.
We had Miracle Max make a pill to bring you back.
I can't move my legs either.
I'm sure that will come. Just don't try and overdo it.
Why am I still on this wall? Who are you? Are we enemies? Where's Buttercup?
Let me explain. No, there is too much. Let me sum up. Buttercup's marrying Humperdink in a little less than half an hour, so all we have to do is get in, break up the wedding, steal the princess, and make our escape after I kill Count Rugen.
Doesn't leave us much time for dilly-dallying.
He's watching his toes, which are wiggling now.
You just wiggle your toes. That's wonderful.
That was been a quick healer. What's our liabilities?
Well, there is but one working castle gate, and it is guarded by 100 men.
And our assets?
Your brains, Fezzik's strength, my steel.
Cut to Westley absolutely stunned.
That's all. That's the grand total. It's impossible. If I'd meant to plan, maybe I'd come up with something, but this...
He shakes his head miserably from side to side and cut to Inigo and Fezzik.
Just shook your head. Doesn't that raise your spirits?
My brains, your strength, and his steel against 100 men, and you think that head jiggling is supposed to make me happy? Can you imagine what it's like for me, sitting wiggling my toes while my true love marries by a murderer? I mean, if we had a wheelbarrow, that would be something.
Oh, where do we put the wheelbarrow the Albino had?
Over the Albino, I think. Okay. Maybe we can get a wheelbarrow.
But why didn't you manage to list that among our assets in the first place?
And slowly, all by himself, he starts to stand.
What I would give for a Holocaust cloak.
Well, there we can't help you.
Will this do?
Where did...
Well, you were after the eel marrow. Max gave me this to help gather volcanic mud. If it would fit so nice, he said I could keep it.
Westley now starts very slowly to totter along the wall.
All right, come on. This sort eventually.
Why? You can't even lift one.
True. That is hardly common knowledge.
He hopples stiffly off the wall. Fezzik reaches out and sets him straight again.
Thank you. Now, there may be problems once we were inside.
I'll say, how do I find the Count? Once I do, how do I find you again? Once I find you again, how do we escape? Once,
Don't pester him. He's had a hard day.
Right, sorry.
Cut to a shot of the three of them in profile. They move along in silence for a time. Then these whispered words come on the wind.
Inigo,
What?
I hope we win.
Cut to Buttercup in her bridal gown, and she's incredible. It's not just her beauty, there's tranquility about her now. We pull back to reveal the prince, standing in her chamber door, beckoning Rugen and 4 guards to stand behind her.
You don't seem excited, my little muffin.
Should I be?
Brides often are, I'm told.
I do not marry tonight.
Cut to Buttercup, and she couldn't seem more serene.
My Westley will save me.
Cut to her Westley walking on the ground now, but still in the darkness by the wall. Inigo moves alongside. Fezzik brings up the rear, dragging the wheelbarrow, and Westley stares. As we cut to the main gate of the castle and Yellin standing there, flanked by his 100 brutes, we cut to Westley and Inigo and Fezzik looking at the enemy. This is it. Inigo and Fezzik shake hands. Wesley can't even do that, but they raise his arm for him, each of them shake it, and then as they silently start to get the wheelbarrow into proper position, we cut to an absolutely gem-like little chapel. Pull back to reveal the most intelligent-looking, the most impressive-appearing clergyman imaginable. Buttercup and Humperdink kneel before the clergyman. Behind them sit the mumbling old king and queen. Standing in the back is Count Rugen. 4 guards are in position flanking the chapel door.
Marriage. Marriage is what brings us together today.
He has an impediment that would stop a clock.
Marriage, that blessed arrangement, that dream within a dream.
And now from outside the castle there begins to come a commotion.
The dream of love, wrapped within the greatest dream of everlasting rest. For if you think of eternity as your friend, with love, for I'll with you forever.
The commotion is louder now, and we cut to Prince Humperdink turning quickly, giving a sharp nod to Count Rugen, who immediately takes off out of the chapel with the 4 guards. As we cut to the brutes and Yellin by the gate, for it is indeed they who are making the commotion. Frightened, pointed off screen as we cut to their point of view. As it's a bit unnerving, a giant seems to be floating towards them out of the darkness. A giant in a strange cloak and with a voice that would crumble walls.
I am the dread pirate Roberts, and there will be no survivors.
Cut to the brutes and Yellin. Panic a little greater now. Cut to the giant floating closer.
My men are here, and I am here, but soon you will not be here.
Cut to Yellin, keeping the brutes in position, or trying to, shouting orders, instructions, and as yet the brutes hold. Now we cut to Fezzik, and he seems to be floating because he's standing in the wheelbarrow as Inigo, hidden behind him, busts a gut, pushing it down towards the brutes, and Westley walks calmly by Inigo.
No.
Light him.
Cut to the brutes as the giant bursts suddenly, happily into flames.
The dread pirate Roberts, take no survivors, never survivors. All your worst nightmares are about to come true. The dread pirate Roberts is here for your souls.
Cut to Yellin. Suddenly the brutes just scream and take off in a wild panic, and cut to inside the chapel.
Skip to the end.
Have you the wing?
As Humperdink whips out the ring, the screams are very loud outside.
Here comes my Wesley now.
Your Wesley is dead.
Buttercup only smiles and shakes her hand.
I killed him myself.
Then why is there fear behind your eyes?
Cut to Prince Humperdink, and she's right, it's there. Cut to Rugen and the guards tearing down a long castle corridor, and cut to Yellin pressed against the main gate, an eagle's sword point at his throat. Fezzik removes his Holocaust cloak and asbestos-like garment that is still aflame. Westley looks at Yellin.
Hand me a sword. Get us the gate key.
The gate key?
I have no gate key. May my parents sizzle forever in hell if I am lying.
Tear his arms off, Fezzik.
Fezzik steps towards him,
Oh, you mean this gate key?
and he lifts it out, hands it to Fezzik, and runs like hell. Cut to Fezzik putting the key in the lock, pulling the great gate open, and as Inigo helps Westley inside, we cut to Humperdink and Buttercup and the impressive clergyman.
Man and wife. Say man and wife.
All right. Man and wife.
Escort the bride to the honeymoon suite. I'll be there shortly.
And as he dashes off, we cut to Buttercup standing there, dazed.
Wesley didn't come. And he said he always would.
Count Rugen and his 4 warriors racing through the castle, and as they reach a complex intersection of several corridors, Rugen stops, incredulous, as we cut to Westley, Inigo, and Fezzik. Moving towards them, Westley moves very slowly, Yellin's sword dragging along the ground like a stiff dog leash. Westley simply hasn't the strength to raise it. We cut to Count Rugen as the confrontation is about to start.
Kill the Dark One and the Giant, but save the third for questioning.
And as his warriors start to draw their swords, the camera zooms into Inigo as a great shriek of battle comes rippling from his throat, and he charges the 4 warriors who shield Rugen. And maybe the warriors are good. Maybe they're even better than that, but they never get the chance to show it because this is something now. This is Inigo gone mad, and the 6-fingered sword has never flashed faster, and the 4th warrior is dead before the first one has even hit the floor. There's a pause, and then,
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
we cut to Count Rugen. For a moment, he just stands there, sword in hand, and then he does the most unexpected thing. He turns and runs the hell away. We cut to Inigo, momentarily surprised and taking off after him. Cut to Rugen, running towards a half-open heavy wooden door. Cut to Westley, who has never really stopped his slow walk, and Fezzik is with him as they head down one of the corridors. Cut to Rugen slamming the heavy wooden door shut, locking it, and just as Inigo throws himself against it, he tries again, no kind of chance.
Fezzik, I need you!
Cut to Fezzik with Westley, walking slowly away, and he calls back.
I can't leave him alone.
Cut to Inigo desperately pounding at the heavy door.
He's getting away from me, Fezzik! Please!
Be right back.
And as he takes off towards the intersection where Inigo's voice came from, we cut to Westley dragging his sword along, and now he's alone. Ahead, 2 corridors cross. The large suit of armor marks the place. Westley continues straight ahead. We cut to Buttercup walking with the king, the queen more sprightly with several paces ahead.
Strange marriage.
Buttercup gently kisses him on the forehead, and he's very surprised and pleased.
What was that for?
Because you've always been so kind to me, and I won't be seeing you again. And so I'm killing myself once I reach the honeymoon suite.
Isn't that nice? She kissed me.
And on those words, we cut to Fezzik attacking the wooden door. He's big, but so is it. And it bends a little, but doesn't break. Fezzik backs off now and takes a breath, then charges when he's close, he dives at the door, blasting it with everything he's got. And as the door splits open, Inigo cries, "Thank you," and dashes through as Fezzik gets up, brushes himself off, and hurries back to where he left Westley. But as he approaches, we cut to the intersection, with the large suit of armor marking it, and Fezzik gaping, staring around all those choices. He clearly is confused, but doesn't let it rattle him.
All your life you've been doing things wrong. Not this time.
So saying, he turns left. Alas, it's the wrong way. Westley went straight. And as Fezzik starts to run, we cut to Count Rugen. And he's running too, dashing through a dining room. As he glances back, we cut to Inigo, behind him coming like a streak. And cut to Count Rugen flashing out of the room, picking up his pace. He pulls out the deadly-looking dagger with the sharp point and a triangular-shaped blade. He holds it hidden in his hand, and we cut to Inigo closing the gap closer, and cut to Buttercup and the king and queen outside the honeymoon suite. She nods goodbye, walks inside as they toddle on.
Would she have said she was going to kill herself?
You and your hearing.
Cut to Buttercup, shutting the door, crossing quietly to the far wall where there's a glorious display of hunting equipment. She looks, then takes the largest dagger. She seems very much at peace when she touches the knife to her bosom.
Its short is a perfect rest in this world. It'd be a pity to damage yours.
And Buttercup whirls as we cut to Westley, lying on the bed. Yellin's sword is beside him. His voice sounds just fine, and he does not move. Now cut to something that is moving, slowly, but we can't tell what it is yet until we pull back to reveal Inigo. And for a graceful guy, he's going through some pretty awkward contortions as this moving thing continues on its way. By now it's clear that we're in super slow motion. The moving thing is Rugen's dagger, and it's heading straight for Inigo's center as he tries desperately to get out of its deadly way. As we cut to Count Rugen, the look on his face tells us that his throw was true, and it was, alas, because we cut to Inigo and we're back in regular speed. The dagger has struck, and he hurtles back helplessly against the wall of the room, sinks to his knees, his eyes glaze, blood coming from his stomach. The room is going white on him.
Sorry, Father. I tried.
Cut to Count Rugen. Looking across the room at Inigo, he stares at Inigo's face and he touches his own cheeks as memory comes.
You must be that little Spanish brat I taught a lesson to all those years ago. It's simply incredible. Have you been chasing me your whole life only to fail now? I think that's the worst thing I've ever heard. How marvelous.
Forgive me, Father. Say you forgive me, please.
Cut to Count Rugen, leaning in lazy triumph against a large table, watching as Inigo continues to bleed.
I wish I had my notebooks. What I'd give to know what you're feeling. At least answer this. The mental or the physical? Which pain is the worst?
Cut to Inigo, as before, helpless on his knees. We cut to Westley, as before, helpless on the bed. Buttercup is covering him with kisses.
Why won't you hold me, Wesley?
Gently.
At a time like this, it's all you can say is gently.
Gently!
As she continues to hold him, we cut to Count Rugen, looking very much surprised.
Good heavens. Are you still trying to win?
Pull back to reveal Inigo, struggling feebly, pulling the dagger from his stomach. Holding the wound with his left hand, Rugen is pushing off the table, sword in hand, moving in to kill Inigo.
You've got an overdeveloped sense of vengeance, and it's going to get you into trouble someday.
Cut to Inigo watching the Count approach, and the Count flicks his sword at Inigo's heart. And there's not much Inigo can do, just kind of vaguely parry and thrust with the six-fingered sword. Cut to Rugen as his blade sinks into Inigo's left shoulder. Inigo doesn't seem to feel it. His other agonies are so much worse. The Count steps back, goes for the heart again. Cut to Inigo, and this blow comes as he's trying to use the wall for support, forcing himself to his feet. And it's not a roaring success of an attempt, but he does at least make some progress. And again, he manages to parry the thrust. This time, Rugen's sword runs through his left arm. Again, Inigo doesn't seem to mind, doesn't even feel it. Cut to Rugen stepping back for just a moment, watching as Inigo continues to inch his way to his feet. And then, just before the Count is about to strike again, Inigo manages the little flick of his own that Rugen hadn't expected. And he jumps back, makes a little involuntary cry of surprise, and cut to Inigo, slowly pushing away from the wall.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Cut to Count Rugen, suddenly going into a fierce attack, striking with great power and precision, for he is a master swordsman. And he forces Inigo easily back, drives him easily into the wall, but he does not penetrate Inigo's defense. None of the Count's blows get home, and the Count steps back a moment. Cut to Inigo, pushing slowly off from the wall again.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Cut to the Count, and again he attacks, slashing with wondrous skill, but none of his blows get through, and slowly, Inigo again moves forward.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
Stop saying that!
Count Rugen, retreating more quickly around the table. Inigo dives for the Counter's left shoulder now, thrusts home where the Count had gotten him. Then another move with his blade enters the Count's left wrist, at the same spot where his left wrist was wounded.
Hello. My name is Inigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die.
No!
Offer me money.
And now the six-fingered sword strikes, and there is slash bleeding along one of Rugen's cheeks.
Yes.
Power 2. Promise me that.
The great sword flashes again, and now there's parallel slash bleeding on Rugen's other cheek.
All I have and more, please.
Offer me everything I ask for.
Yes, yes. Say it.
I want my father back, you son of a bitch.
And on that, we cut to Inigo, and almost too fast for the eye to follow, the sword strikes one final time. Cut to Count Rugen, crying out in fear and panic as the sword hits home, dead center. Cut to Inigo and Rugen, the sword clear through the Count. They're almost frozen like that a moment, and then Inigo withdraws his sword. And as the Count pitches down, we cut to Rugen, lying dead. His skin is ashen, and the blood still pours from the parallel cuts on his cheeks. His eyes are bulging wide, full of fear. Cut to Inigo staring at Rugen, and now Inigo does something we've never seen him do before. He smiles. Hold just a moment on Inigo smiling, and then we cut to inside the honeymoon suite. Westley lies as before. Not a muscle has moved. His head is still on the pillows. Yellin's sword is at his side. Buttercup alongside the bed. Her eyes never leave his face.
Wesley, will you ever forgive me?
What hideous sin have you committed recently?
I got married. I didn't want to. It happened all so fast.
Never happened.
What?
It never happened.
But it did. I was there. This old man said man and wife, and...
Did you say I do?
Well, no, we sort of skipped that part, but...
Then you're not married. If you didn't say it, you didn't do it. What did you agree, your highness?
Cut to Humperdink entering the room, staring at them, his boots quite muddy. Then he moves, racing across the room to the hunting weapons, grabbing a giant sword.
A technicality that will shortly be remedied. But first things first.
No. To the pain.
I don't think I'm quite familiar with that phrase.
I'll explain it. And use small words, and you're sure to understand, you warthog-faced buffoon.
That may be the first time in my life a man has dared insult me.
Cut to Westley lying there comfortably, his words quiet at first.
It won't be the last. To the pain means the first thing you'll lose will be your feet below the ankles. Your hands at the wrists, next to your nose. No smell of dawn for you.
Cut to Humperdink gripping his sword, watching.
Next my tongue, I suppose. I killed you too quickly last time, a mistake I don't mean to duplicate tonight.
I wasn't finished. Next you use your left eye, followed by your right.
Then my ears, I understand. Let's get on with it.
Cut to close up Westley, huge.
Wrong! Your ears you keep, and I'll tell you why.
Cut to Humperdink, and now he stops. And the look that was in his eyes at the wedding, that look of fear, is starting to return. Cut to Westley.
So that every shriek of every child at seeing your hideousness will be yours to cherish. So that every babe that weeps at your approach, every woman who cries, "Dear God, what is that thing?" will echo in your perfect ears. That is what to the pain means. It means I will leave you in anguish, wallowing in freakish misery forever.
Cut to Humperdink doing his best to hide the fear that keeps building inside him.
I think you're bluffing.
Cut to Westley lying there, staring at him.
Possible, pig. Might be bluffing. It's conceivable, you miserable vomitous mass. That I'm lying because I lack the strength to stand. But then again, perhaps I have the strength after all.
And now, slowly, Westley begins to move. His body turns, his feet go to the floor. He starts to stand. Cut to Humperdink staring, eyes wide. Cut to Westley, and now he's standing, sword in fighting position.
Drop your sword.
Cut to Prince Humperdink, and he's so panicked he doesn't know whether to pee or wind his watch. He throws his sword to the floor. Cut to Westley, speaking to Buttercup as Humperdink stands frozen.
Time to the chair. Use curtain sashes, be quick.
And as she sets to work, neither she nor Humperdink see Westley begin to tilt off balance. He grabs a nearby chair, manages to push himself back upright. As we cut to Inigo moving along the corridor, hears their voices and approaches the door.
What have you done?
Sort of.
Cut to the suite as Buttercup finishes tying Humperdink, who is strapped in the chair. Inigo enters and looks around.
Where's Fezzik?
Isn't he with you?
Trapped in the castle. He has the gate key.
Let's at least find some place to make a sound.
Help him,
Why does Wesley need helping?
because he has no strength.
The Humperdink, and now he starts wrestling mightily with his bonds.
That's right, I was right. You were bluffing. I do it all the time.
Shall I dispatch him for you?
Thank you, but no. Whatever happens to us, I want him to live a long life alone with this cowardice.
Oh, Inigo, help me, please. I'm all confused and miserable, and I need to see a friendly face.
They look at each other, then move to the balcony and cut to Fezzik, forlorn, leading 4 great white horses. He glances up and sees them on the balcony.
3 friendly faces. I've been so lost, Inigo, and I stumbled into the prince's stables, and he had 4 white horses, and I thought, that's how many of us there are, 4. And if we ever found the lady, oh, hello, lady. So I brought them along in case we ever ran into each other. I guess we just did.
Cut to Inigo and Westley and Buttercup looking down at Fezzik.
Fezzik, you did something right.
Don't worry, I won't let it go to my head.
And as he holds out his great arms, we cut to something unexpected and very lovely. Buttercup floating through the air. What's happening, of course, is that she's jumping from the balcony so Fezzik can catch her. But her fall is in slow motion, so you might think she was flying. Cut to Westley and Inigo watching as Fezzik catches Buttercup, puts her on the first white horse.
No, it's very strange. Been in the revenge business for so long. Now that it's over, I don't know what to do with the rest of my life.
You ever consider piracy? You make a lovely Dread Pirate Roberts.
How from that, we cut to the 4 glorious white horses with their 4 riders triumphantly racing through the night. Cut to Buttercup and Westley, and at least their trails are done. They stop. And on their ride to freedom, a wave of adoration swept over Buttercup, and she reached for Westley as he reached for her. And as Buttercup and Westley begin their ultimate kiss, we cut to the kid's bedroom. Grandfather stops reading.
And what? And what?
It's kissing again. You don't want to hear it.
I don't mind so much.
Okay. Since the invention of the kiss, there have been 5 kisses that were rated the most passionate, the most pure. This one left them all behind. Rest now.
I promise.
Now you take care of yourself. You listen to your mother. Do what she says.
I will.
All right. So long.
Grandpa, maybe you could come over and read it again to me tomorrow.
As you wish. The grandfather puts the book by the kid's bed table, gives him a kiss, turns out the light, leaves. And the instant he is gone, we cut to the kid, like a whirlwind, grabbing the book, grabbing a flashlight from the bed table drawer, and he hides them both, the book and the light, under his covers. He flicks the flashlight on, flips the book again, starts turning pages. What we see are some of the high points of the story we've gone through. Blinks, really, moving from moment to moment, starting with Buttercup meeting the crowd the first time, so beautiful, and now Buttercup on horseback, starting to fall as Fezzik touches her neck. The man in black, it's the black sailboat. Buttercup dives into the water, and the shrieking eel as Fezzik rips it apart. The cliffs of insanity now, Fezzik climbing, Vizzini cutting at the rope, the man in black clinging to the cliffs, and Inigo swearing on the soul of his dead father that the man in black will reach the top alive. And the duel starting, and Inigo switching his sword from left hand to right hand, the man in black switching his sword too, and Fezzik looking around idly as the man in black starts battling with him, and Vizzini cackling, falling dead, and Humperdink tracing the duel. The fire swamp as Buttercup disappears in the snow sand, and Westley wounded and bleeding, fighting the ROUSs, and the Albino appearing in the cage in the pit of despair, and the old lady booing Buttercup, and Inigo as Fezzik dumps him from the tub of hot water into the other tub of cold, and Westley as the death scream starts, and Miracle Max applying the bellows cram to Wesley, and Wesley as Inigo forces down the resurrection pill, and Fezzik bursting into flame, and Inigo wounded, his sword plunging into Rugen's heart, and resting standing. Wesley standing, scaring the hell out of Humperdink, who drops his sword, almost pees his pants. Buttercup floating down to Fezzik's waiting arms, and the 4 white horses and their riders. And now we cut to the kid in his bedroom, book clutched in his hands, and he looks startled. Cocks his head and he hears something from outside the window now, the sound of horses. The kid looks out his window, holds his breath as we cut to outside the window. As here they come, the silhouetted against the sky, Westley and Buttercup, Inigo and Fezzik riding their white horses. Cut to the kid staring out the window, and his eyes go wider and wider as we cut to 4 riders. They stop, they look at the kid. There's a pause, and then they beckon to the kid. They beckon for him to join them. Cut to the kid smiling. He's lost in his beautiful thoughts. Hold, final fade out.
And there it is, folks. The greatest bedtime story ever told, The Princess Bride. Thank you so much for joining us all tonight. This has been truly spectacular. So yeah, thank you for watching, and we'll see you at the next one.